Hey kids, it's time to get some SML podcast all up in that.
I expected she was going to be super mellow as soon as the recording started, and she just blitzed out. Oh my gosh.
And instead she's like, motherfucking guy!
Mm-hmm. We made that.
What's up, everyone? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. Fun show in store today. We have Stephen Crouse of Pixel Maniacs going to be joining much later in the show to talk about the game ChromaGun, which is out now on Steam, coming later on this month for PS4, Xbox One. We'll have a review for you later on as well. Not this episode, just eventually. It's an eventuality. But we do have reviews to kick off the show now, and we're going to start things off with our friend Henry Jones, Joe Straatmann. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm trying to decide whether or not I should go with your real name or stick with Henry that I've been calling you for, 15 years or something like that?
Go ahead and go with Henry. It's because it's like Joe and Joe. It gets messy. It's like at work. We have a Spencer, Joe, Joanna. It gets messy.
Man, crazy stuff. But you are here to talk about the game The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel, correct?
Correct.
And that game is developed by Nihon Falcom, published by XSEED Games and Marvelous USA. It released August 2nd on Steam for $39.99. Thor's Military Academy, Erebonia's?
Yeah, Erebonia.
Erebonia's best learn everything from the art of war to liberal arts. First year, God, these names are insane. Reen
Schwarzer.
Reen Schwarzer learns he's been selected to join the controversial Class 7, and they'll need to deal with more than just class warfare. They'll need to safeguard their country from chaos. Henry, since you know how to pronounce these names, tell me, what is the game about?
Okay, so this entire franchise has built up this entire continent for a while. Like the Legend of Heroes series has been going on for a while, even longer than I thought, because I sent you a chart. Falcom considers this a part of a Dragon Slayer empire of games that goes all the way back to the original Dragon Slayer game and includes Legacy of the Wizard and Vaxanadu.
Wow.
And yeah, you best know Falcom for their Ease games, and yes, the pronunciation you had last week was correct. It is Ease. So
see, I know some things.
Yeah, but this is their more RPG focused. If Ease is more action oriented, this is their more story oriented franchise. So they got this Legend of Heroes. You might remember Trails in the Sky. This is part of the same
Legend
franchise.
of Heroes tits.
Yes, that thing.
How did that get? I want to know how that got through, like all the different layers of product assurance and quality control, and they're like. From
what I understand, XSEED was perfectly aware of it and let it pass.
Rock on! Thank you, XSEED.
So that part of it took place years before this, and on another part of the country. You're in the Empire, of Erebonia, which is where the bad guys came from at least in the first chapter. I never got to the second two chapters of Trails in the Sky because I had the PSP version of the game because I got the special edition with the soundtrack and the map and all that fun stuff. And then everything transferred to the Vita and then to the PC, and I can't transfer my save over, so I had to buy the game all over on PC so I can play through the entire series of the game and have all the stuff transfer over. So that's a work in progress. That's about 200 hours of work that I need to put in, and I'm on an already busy schedule.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So this is a new story where you play as Reen Schwarzer, who goes to the Thor's Military Academy, where they obviously train military commanders. Class 7 is this new special class that combines the nobles and the commoners. This is taking place during the Industrial Revolution of their country, because they have the orbital things, which are kind of like materia, except not really, but they power everything now. So industrial power has gone up, and there are people with money who put into industry, and they're becoming kind of a new nobility, and the commoners are trying to set in some reformists, and they have a reformist government. So this is the first sign of Thor's military academy that they're trying to integrate the classes. So you get these crazy batch of commoners and nobles together, and let's see, just a few of them is like you have the son of the reformist faction, Machias, and then you have Eusis, who is the son of one of the four great families of nobility in the country. So they're pretty much at each other's throats the entire time, and it's kind of delivered in that way. Would you just kiss? Because they're obviously setting a gay ship. So, and then you have a few other people like Emma, who comes from a band of witches, and Afi, who is a former military mercenary, I should say. And then we have Gaius, who comes from the Styx, and Laura, who comes from a noble family of swords people. And then you have a couple other people to fill out. And eventually you get Milliam, who is a 12-year-old military intelligence officer voiced by Ashley Birch. So there you go with that one. So the structure of the game is you do your classwork, and I mean, it doesn't sound particularly fun, and it doesn't leave the best first impressions because it has to get you into the game. So you're doing one part of the chapter that's in the classroom, where there's an old classroom just outside of campus you have to explore, because it becomes this dungeon from old times, and nobody knows what it does. Nobody knows what its purpose is, but they need you to explore it, and it's only letting you explore one floor every month. So you have to get through that, and then you go on your field trips where your professor is trying to get you to know the people of your country so you can better help them, because they don't just make military soldiers in this academy, even though they do that, but they also have people who don't become soldiers after they graduate, and they want you to know who these people are so you can better help them. So you go on field trips to the various parts of the country, and that's where a lot of the plot comes in, because there's this little plot. It starts off, there's a little incident in a market town where they're trying to jab at the merchants for not refusing to pay ridiculous taxes, because the royalty and the nobles are trying to get things back under their control. So you get a little blip of that, and then there's a little hint of terrorists. So that conflict continually boils over as you continue through the game, and that's the main plot. And it doesn't start off as much. This game doesn't leave the best first impression, because you go into your class and you go into your opening ceremony, and all of the characters are copied and pasted of like an average male student, average female student, and they just like copy and paste them across the auditorium to fill out the room. And that's really not representative of the game. And also the graphics are mid PS3 era, and they're not fantastic, but they do what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So you go through that, and you eventually have to make friends with your classmates, because they help you out in battle, and it's kind of like Persona's social bonds, where the better you get along with your fellow student, the more they help you out in battle. They can protect you from death, they can team up on special attacks, and a whole lot of other handy things. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was trying to transfer into it. Like, this game feels like a lot of borrowed things from other games, but they go together extremely well. Like,
so how does the actual gameplay play out? I know you said this is more the RPG style. Then East that is action. Is it turn-based battles? Is it like Chrono Trigger where you see the enemies on the map?
It's Chrono Trigger where you see the enemies on the map, but you go into a battle screen for turn battle. And it's kind of like Persona where you can sneak up on them and slash them, and then you can get in for an early attack, which is essential for a lot of battles. And then you go into a turn-based, which is kind of like Lufia and Grandia mixed with Final Fantasy X and Xenosaga Episode 1. It's a lot of things. It's taking it piece by piece, where you have the turn-based where what you can do is based on how far away you are from the enemy and how much time it takes. Yeah. But also,
I mean, if you're going to borrow, you might as well borrow from the greats, right?
Yeah. It doesn't borrow for any bad things. So, and then there's the turn-based in the upper left-hand corner that tells you whose turn is next. And there are also event slots from Xenosaga where there are critical attacks that happen on this turn, or you get healed on this turn, or you get certain... later on in the game, they get... I can't remember if it's the first or the second game, but there are status inflections that happen on this turn, so you want to avoid those. So it starts you off light. It doesn't start you off too difficult, but you also... So what you want to do is you want to set up yourself to get the critical hits. You want to set yourself up to heal. And there are also arts, which are like your magic spells that run off like the Orbal, which is the materia of this world, where you can just pop them in on the slots of your little Orbal thing, and you can have magic, or you can have stat boosts. And the magic takes time to cast, or you can hit the turn where it says magic costs 0 and it casts instantly. So you want that event slot. And then you have special moves called crafts. So get it, arts and crafts. So the crafts are special moves you can do that can either increase the defense or attack and give your character stat boosts, or you can attack the enemy and potentially get them poisoned or paralyzed. But those take up more time, so it takes longer for your character to get his next turn. And you can do the super special moves, which take up they're called CP, but it's like the points you build up by getting attacked or being attacked, like the irritation points from Lufia. Another game it borrows from. So once you get those built up, you can do a super move that usually hits a wide variety of characters and does a ton of damage, but again, that takes up more time. So it's a lot of elements from a lot of different games, but they work extremely well together. As long as it works, right? Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that you previously reviewed this for the one site that you write for on the Vita, right?
Yeah, Infinite Rainy Day. I reviewed it for the PS3 version. This is the PS3, or not the PS3, the PC version, I should say.
This is the Steam release. And I was going to ask you...
Yeah, it is...
Are there any noticeable difference going from PS3 and the Vita over to PC?
Oh, yes. There are plenty of differences. XSEED brought in famous Steam modder and, guy who gets in a lot of optimization projects, Durante. And he was brought in to essentially optimize and, trick out the PC version. So you can basically make this game graphically whatever your computer can handle. Granted, it's not the most fantastic looking game, and there's still things that are going to be problematic. Like in the field, there are things that have text written on them, like your chalkboards, and the chalkboard text is still fuzzy, but you can make this run as quickly as you like. You can make it as sharp as you want. And
overclock this motherfucker.
You can overclock the motherfucker, even though it's not the best looking game. And then you can do multiple playthrough parts of it. Like if you're accomplishment horror, but you don't want to go through the 80-hour game again, you can set it to turbo mode, which they just added in the recent patch. And you can skip the logos, you can skip the movies, you can just go directly to the opening screen where you can essentially just play the game. So it gives you a lot more customization options, which XSEED's handling of the PC ports has really done. I played Trails in the Sky, and that thing runs fast, and it was extremely sharp. I mean, granted, it was hard on my computer because it looks like a PS1 game with, slightly more high res, but they put some real work into this one, and they added 500,000 lines of dialogue, which
wow.
Yeah. The original voice acting is really good. Like I said, they got Ashley Birch for the supporting character, and plenty of other talent, and it's a really good dub. So they don't have the Japanese version. Unfortunately, through some Japanese rights stuff, they can't get it. So that's unfortunate, but the dub they have is really good. And the only problem with the original version is there were some times when you could tell the main character was supposed to speak, but they kind of cut it out because they either didn't have the budget or time. So it adds a few things where it would have normally been dialogue, or they fixed up some things that maybe the translation didn't get exactly correctly. And they're still fixing some things, like the dialogue will occasionally not match what the text says. And I think that's because they were fixing some dialogue and then they didn't just fix the text. So I'm guessing that will get fixed too.
So basically this is like the definitive version of the game.
Yeah, it's the version where if you had both options and you wanted, I would get this version. Although the PS3 version and the Vita version are still really good. It's just you'll have to go through the opening screens where it goes loading system options, loading trophies.
Yeah.
Here's the logo. Here's the opening video, and now you're at the title screen. You can skip all that.
So if someone owns the game already on PS3 or Vita, is it worth picking up?
I probably wouldn't have picked it up if I wasn't reviewing it, just because I am on a budget crunch right now. But for $35, if you don't have it, it's a must-have if you are a JRPG fan. If you don't already have it, I would think about it. But it is still a really good game, and it gives you so many extra options to play it. Like, you don't have turbo mode, and you can't skip the movies on the PS3 version. And I played through this a second time on the PS3 version, and the opening is slow and go if you already know the plot and you already know all of these things and you just want to get going.
No. You mentioned $35. It is on sale until August 9th for $35.99. Normal price is $40 though. So for $40 for someone new to the series, what is your verdict on Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel?
Oh, I would so buy it. It's a get it if you are a JRPG fan.
If you're not a JRPG fan, I don't think we're going to change your mind.
No, it's one of those things where the pieces aren't exactly the best. The graphics aren't great. The soundtrack is really good, but if you're used to Falcom's Ys soundtracks where every track is like super killer. It's an 80-hour game where there's plenty of just regular tracks that are good, but they loop a lot, and there's obviously it's borrowed from other games, but you don't want Falcom revolutionizing very much, because the last time they revolutionized things was Ys 1 and 2, where how you attacked enemies was literally running into them. And which seems counterintuitive, but whatever.
Old school gameplay, man. That's how when we were kids, we just walked into enemies with our sword out, and if they got hurt, cool.
but the pieces gel into like this. It's hard to explain how well it gets. Like the game, the characters become family to you, and you get really invested into the plot. And the episode 1 ends on a cliffhanger. I should note that. So,
bum bum bum.
Oh yeah, but
that's how I should just end this review. It's like the first one ends on a cliffhanger, and next game to talk about.
But there are a couple things like I said, it doesn't leave the best first impression. That's not indicative of the game, because you become like. It's a weird thing to say, but you become intimate with like all the students on the grounds, because every student has a story. All right. You get to know all of them, and you can talk to them like Emma joins the literary club, and the president of the literary club writes gay porn, And what she's trying to do is, Emma's the smartest girl in your class. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to curb her friends' like fujoshi talents into making actual literature and gay porn at the same time. So that's just one of the little stories you can dive in on.
Nice. Well, on the note of gay porn, we are going to move on. Henry, thanks so much for covering this game for us and diving headfirst into all the gay porn you need. I'm sure we'll get you back on again. Do you have any final words before we move on?
This is what is written on a lot of the books in the game. Woo, baby.
Moving from one RPG to another, the next game to talk about is called Fate EXTELLA, the Umbral Star, developed by Marvelous, published by Marvelous USA and XSEED, released July 25th on Steam for $49.99 and Nintendo Switch for $59.99. In the digital realm of Seraph, the Holy Grail War is over, but the land's new ruler faces challenges and threats from all sides. The servants now find themselves drawing up tense and unlikely alliances, preparing for a conflict that may tear Seraph apart or destroy it entirely. Ooh.
Whoa!
Joining us to talk about this one is Tom Miller. Tom, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's a little bit on the smoky side here in Seattle with the wildfires going on, so my voice is about an octave lower than usual today. But other than that,
what's going on out that way?
So there are a bunch of fires going on in British Columbia in the southern part of Canada, and so this whole region is kind of blanketed in smoke at the moment, and that's okay, but my car doesn't have air conditioning, and it's also been like in the 90s for the last week, so I've been driving around just basically inhaling smoke constantly for the last several days, and
Good Lord. I know in our last episode, our friend Jesse at Evolve PR joined us on the show to chat, and he's from Seattle, and he was saying it's been like over 100 out that way.
Yeah, maybe at some point. I don't know. It hasn't been all that nice, but but I
didn't know there were fires up that way too.
Yeah.
Speaking of fires, what about Fate EXTELLA?
So yeah, Fate EXTELLA. Yeah, I did play a game for this. So this
totally
is
related to fires.
So this is actually the latest game in a pretty long-running series that started with Fate Stay Night, which was actually like more than 10 years ago now. And it's actually the first one in the series that I've played. But what drew me to it is that it's a single-player action game with like. So, and you mentioned that it's an RPG, and it does have RPG elements to it, but it's actually a lot more like a Dynasty Warriors type of game and how it plays. Yeah, so you have it's really fast-paced, sort of simple combat where you run around just mowing down thousands of dudes at a time. And it has a very it's extremely anime, so if you're into that kind of thing, it might be one to check out. But really, so it shares a lot with the Dynasty Warriors type of games, including actually there's a character who shows up a few stages in that is a recurring character from Dynasty Warriors, and but it has such a different setting that it does set it apart from those kind of things, because it does take place in like that sort of virtual reality, almost like a Matrix style world where everything is just crazy and flying around, and and that does actually also change a little bit about the gameplay, because usually in those types of games you're running around on a battlefield, running between different points, and in this one, because you're in the virtual world, you can kind of just teleport between them, and it does make it a little faster paced, and I kind of like it. It does also sort of simplify it a little bit, and I don't know, I find the combat to be a lot of fun in this game, and it is like definitely my favorite part of the game. It is also just really pretty to look at. Some of the environments are just really well done, and they really got creative with a lot of the level designs, the music as well. It's this really strange sort of fusion. It has like some acid jazz stuff. Every once in a while there's like, there's some rock stuff. There's some like just random karaoke Japanese stuff like in the middle of levels sometimes. I feel like if I had played the other games in this series, that would make more sense to me. But I feel like that is sort of well, it could either be a highlight to you or a one of the downsides of the game is that it really is not. I don't think it's all that friendly of like a first game in the Fate series to play. It kind of like it assumes that you know all of these characters and the situations already before you start, and it doesn't really hold your hand as far as introducing you to them. You just like this character suddenly shows up out of nowhere and is singing karaoke in the middle of this Dynasty Warriors level, and it's just kind of like, well, okay, I guess we'll go with it. So, yeah, and, you know, because this series has gone on for so long, I was actually, before we started the call, I was looking at the wiki for the series, and there are just, like, pages upon pages about some of these characters that I had no idea was the case. So there's a ton of lore, and that's kind of the other half of the game, too, because you have these action levels, and then the rest of it is more of like a visual novel, like almost a dating sim kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a really odd mix, and that's not really a genre I've ever really been super into. So I kind of found myself just kind of skipping through a lot of it because the actual parts of the game where you're fighting are pretty fun, and it's kind of like a good stress relieving type of game where you can just kind of turn it on and just destroy everything for 20 minutes. And yeah.
That's how I felt the very first time I played, God, what was it? Dynasty Warriors 2 or 3 on the PS2?
Yeah.
I remember, like, this has nothing to do with the game, so this is just some weird tangent that I'm going to go on. I remember walking around KB Toys, like, back when, before the
wow, I remember that.
Before the PS2 came out, and they had a PS2 on display with, I want to say it was Dynasty Warriors 2. It could have been 3. I don't remember. It's been so long ago.
I think 3 was the first one for the PS2, but I'm not quite sure.
I just remember it being there being a demo in the store, and I was like, wow, this looks interesting, and I just hack and slash murdered a ton of people. I was like, this is incredible. I've never played a game like this before.
Yeah, it's really satisfying for sure.
So I totally know what you mean when you talk about just stress relief and murdering motherfuckers. Same thing with the very first prototype. I went into here's another old store that I miss dearly, Game Crazy. And
I don't think that must not be in my part of the country.
Well, it's not anymore. It used to be like the game section of Hollywood Video.
Oh, that's right. Wow.
Yeah, I miss Game Crazy. They were open like every day. Christmas Day, you could go there, and they were open. They had the original prototype on display, and I fired it up, and I'm cutting people in half. It was like Dynasty Warriors, but bloody. And I left the store with that game that day.
Nice.
Because it was just that much fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my tangent. Go on.
Yeah. No, cool. So, I mean, just like those games, there are a lot of different side stories and stuff that you can unlock. Pretty much there are a ton of different characters that have their own campaign in addition to like the basic story mode, and there are different ways that you can buff or equip your characters with different things, so you can change it up a bit. I guess the one thing, and also with Dynasty Warriors kind of stuff, is that it does kind of get repetitive after a while. You do kind of end up doing similar things on every level, even though the settings do change a bit. But all in all, like, so I feel like as much of a game for the fans of the series as Fate EXTELLA is, it did still manage to be enjoyable, even though I had no idea what any of the stuff was that was going on. And, I like those sort of like virtual world style stories anyway. It's a pretty neat little take on it, even if it is really strange sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've had my eye on this one for a while, so
yeah.
I need to pick it up. I need something good for my Switch.
That's right, yeah. And with it coming out for the Switch too, that's it's good that it's getting a multi-platform release happening.
Yeah, originally launched on PS4, I want to say last year sometime.
Yeah.
And now it's out for Switch and on Steam for $50. And given the fact that it's, I don't want to say an older game because it's not like it's years old, but it is from, it is a re-release. Do you think the $50 price tag is justified, or even $60 on the Switch? Is there enough content to justify that?
So there's definitely enough content. I think that I don't know. For some people, it would definitely be worth it. Like, especially if you're a fan of this series and you already know the characters and what's going on. I think it would probably be definitely worth checking out. Just because, it's obviously made for you. It's the and also, like, if you're just looking for a good solid Dynasty Warriors game that has a little bit of a different setting and a different type of characters. Like, each individual part of the game is kind of made for a completely different audience, I feel. But there is a lot of good stuff here, too. And if you are interested in either of those things, I do recommend checking it out.
Sounds good. So your overall verdict for the game?
I'd say give it a shot.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I might have to. And a quick correction on my end. It released in January on the PS4 and the Vita, but November in Japan last year. So still 7-8 months old by the time it released. So yeah. I was close. But Tom, thank you as always for coming on and talking about the game. Any final words to sum it up?
Well, just have a good time. Enjoy your life. I don't know. I always say some just like vague positive platitude at the end of my reviews, I think. But I mean it,
Don't catch fire. You can
also don't catch fire. That's a bad time.
And the next game to talk about today is called Sundered, developed and published by Thunder Lotus Games. It released July 28th on the PS4 and Steam for $19.99. Sundered is a horrifying fight for survival and sanity, a hand-drawn epic from the creators of Jotun. It is a
fight for sanity.
It is a replayable Metroidvania where you resist or embrace ancient eldritch powers. You play as Esh. I think it's Esh. Tim, is it Esh?
I don't even remember.
Ish?
Yeah, I think it's Esh.
Esh or Ish.
It's not vocalized. So
a wanderer in a ruined world, trapped in ever-changing caverns, filled with hordes of terrifying enemies, harness the power of corrupted relics to defeat gigantic bosses at the cost of your humanity. Resist or embrace. Mr. Tim Ekkebus, did you resist or did you embrace?
I guess I resisted. Resisted Sundered. All right.
So what is Sundered? Give us the lowdown.
So Sundered is a game. It's kind of... It's not... It's like a Metroidvania-ish, not really roguelike, but just because, like... So it is a Metroidvania-style game. It is your 2D... platforming, action, exploration type game like that. If you imagine something like Rogue Legacy, it's kind of like that. Like, you don't lose everything when you die. You don't really lose anything when you die. Just when you die, you're going to go back to the starting point, and some of the rooms will rearrange. Like, there's these kind of larger boxes that have like 12 smaller room sections inside them, sort of, and those bits inside of it will rearrange. But like that larger box, like the kind of the key points in the map stay put. So like this boss room is always in this spot, and like this gateway to another area is always over here. But just kind of the spaces inside the spaces will change around, and that's what makes it maybe roguish a little bit, very, very roguelite. But when you die, you keep all your stuff. It's not like you're as you're going around grinding, you're picking up what is the word for it? Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember what this is called. Either way, I don't know. You're picking up
welcome to my show. I forget everything all the time.
Yeah, it's like, anyway, you're picking up experience points basically. It's like it's impossible to keep track of exactly what this any game calls it these days, because it's something different that they're trying to make it, put their own stamp on it. And then so when you die, you'll go back to the starting point, and then you'll have the convenient opportunity to spend those points on upgrading your character. You can actually just quit back to that starting point at any time you want to, if you just don't want to walk back there and you do want to level up and you're way out in the world. You can just quit and go back and then spend your points and then make your merry way back out there. Yeah. and that's kind of the flow of the game, really. This game does have gorgeous hand-drawn art and animations for its characters. That is no doubt the best thing to point at in this game, is just all the sprites just look and animate fantastic.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job with Jotun when that came out, and
Jotun would be how that is pronounced.
I know, but when I interviewed them, they were like, "We just go with Jotun since that's how everybody else says it."
No,
so every time I say Jotun, I also correct it to the improper Jotun, because so many other people go with Jotun that they just went with Jotun.
Just changed the name of their game to fit the fan base.
Well, you motherfuckers aren't going to say it right, so we'll stop saying it right too.
I guess it's a silly thing, I guess, to get hung up on.
So
at that point,
so I guess it makes sense that Sundered would look good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sprites look good. The environments, though, are not great because they are being procedurally generated. So that just having to have kind of a tile set that pulls from in whatever they're using to generate rooms. I don't know if they made a bunch of prefab rooms and then they just kind of stick together. But the environments are pretty dull and repetitive. They use the same elements in different areas. They might just throw a different color tint over the top of it. Oh, this area is red, or this area is a bit darker because the power is off in this this military facility or whatever it is. So that was kind of sucky that unto itself. I guess I should just come out and say I didn't like this game. I did not have fun playing Sundered. The first hour or so I was playing, I was just why? What is because I just wasn't making any good progress. I was kind of exploring around the world, and the enemy encounters, I just wasn't getting enough experience to advance my character at all. And I was what is the deal with this game? And it got better after I got the double jump. It got easier to get around the environment and kind of get around and explore. But the thing is, I just don't think it was that much fun to play. The way the enemy encounters are, because all the kind of these rooms are randomly generated. You don't have these kind of nicely designed set enemy encounters. So you'll go into a room, or you'll be going through the world or whatever, and all of a sudden, and on the PS4, there's a very distinct stutter. The game kind of freezes for a second as it's loading in enemies. And then enemies will just start pouring in onto you. When you have an encounter in this game, it's dozens of enemies pouring in on you.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, that's the way they did their encounters. There's these little enemies that crawl along walls. And they'll all come sputtering up around with you. There's these meteor enemies that will shoot themselves at you. There's these other guys that all kind of float through walls. There's these terrible enemies that are these fucking stationary cannons, and they'll spawn rooms away.
Ugh.
And be shooting at you, and it's a freaking nightmare because you either sit there and avoid their lasers until you get out of that large so imagine. I mentioned those kind of larger rooms with the 12 rooms in between. Mm-hmm. So somewhere in that 12 room block might be this thing with a laser shooting at you. It might be 4 rooms away. It might be quite a haul just to go down there and beat the thing up. And then so you can go, and just progress. But it just ended up not like the encounters just ended up not being very fun. And part of that is because the only offensive capability you have, well, your main offensive capability is this one 5-hit combo that you just activate by hitting square. So I'm just sitting there like mashing square because that's it, and I'll roll every now and then, and here and there I'll like usually I wouldn't even jump to attack flying enemies. I would wait for them to fly down like closer to me so I could just kind of keep like slashing back and forth. And maybe that's on me for not making the combat, I don't know, for not jumping around and engaging with it more, but it just felt like, why would I do that? Like there's this pack of these little enemies here on the ground. I'm just going to try to attack all of them. And then other things like the meteors will fly down and get stuck and crash, and I'll get them, and then these other guys will float up and I'll attack them. And
would it have helped if they used House of Pain's Jump Around as the soundtrack?
Yes, absolutely, of course. That would help at just about any game. But there was like one encounter I was in where I was in this area, and it was kind of like a little like divot in the ground, so like all those enemies were like pouring down into this little like bucket almost, I guess. And I'm just standing there just like mashing X, and like I'm literally like checking my phone while trying to get through this enemy encounter, just like mashing X, and then I'd kind of hit circle every now and then. But I didn't have any real need to move my character. I'm just trying to like pound through all of these enemies just to get through them and move on. And then they just kept coming and coming and coming. And like when this game wants to kill you, like it'll just keep throwing enemies at you until you are dead.
Oh man.
Seemingly, it feels like, because one of my more recent runs, because I was just kind of picking it up and like trying to do like a run or two through the world to see where I could get to. Like I was just in like this big area, and just enemies just didn't stop coming. Just didn't stop. They just kept pouring in. I'm just like, what the fuck? And there's like lasers shooting at me from screens and screens away. And I'm just like, God, what the? It's just so aggravating. Like, I don't get it. And yeah, like early on, I was just really discouraged because I was making very little progress with leveling my character. Like that, eventually I kind of, started getting some better runs and kind of getting a better feel for how to get around, like where I should be going in the world to find bosses and progress, and unlock other doors, I suppose. So I had some better runs, and I was like, actually able to do some leveling up. But like the skill tree, and it has this big kind of sphere gritty looking skill tree thing, with like these nodes on there, and as you find abilities in the world, it'll unlock different branches of the tree. And then there's other like kind of extra important things scattered about that tree, like, health upgrades or shield upgrades or whatever, what have you. But each node on the tree takes 3 upgrades before you can move past it. And like each one of those upgrades is, you still get something. You're still getting health like 3 times, but I'm just like, why not just make it one upgrade and make it cost more? Like, I don't know. It just felt annoying sometimes, where it's like I'm trying to get this thing on the other side, but no, I have to get 3 pieces of whatever before I can move on up the tree. So it was really actually I needed like 3 times as much to clear a node, 3 times as much experience to clear a node as I did to as you might think, which is unfortunate. But things you're leveling up is like your damage, your offense damage, which I was hunting around for those. Your armor, which just reduces your damage, your health, which is obvious what that is.
Your magic, right?
Yeah, and you have like a regenerating shield, which regenerates after like a few seconds. So it's kind of like a little piece of regenerating health, which is good because like there's these kind of annoying laser traps in some of the areas, unless you just kind of let the shield take that and then regenerate and not hold yourself up too long waiting to get past them. But yeah, like I just didn't have a lot of fun with it. I was just like this. I just did clearly a well-made game, but like the pieces that they had in place just did not come together to make a super fun experience for me. Like every time I put down the game, I was aggravated. I was never like, man, I did great, I can't wait to come back to it. I was just like, oh man, well, I'll try again tomorrow.
I survived this one.
Yeah, I kept waiting for the moment when like everything would really start to come together.
So what do you think could improve this?
Either I mean, what the hell do I know about game design? But
nothing.
Like,
but you know how to play them.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I think better like. Well, I just just prefacing with how I hate to be an armchair game designer, but here I'm gonna be an armchair game designer. Like maybe if the enemy encounters were kind of designed hand in hand with the rooms and not just pouring them in. If you had a little more variance to your offensive abilities, like because just mashing attack through encounters is just not a lot of fun. And yeah, like the skill tree, maybe just one like balancing out the nodes a little bit better. Maybe I just feel like a thing where it's like, oh, if I just want to get one upgrade here, like, or maybe you have to get 2 on a node and then you can move past it. Like you don't have to get all 3 of them, something like that. Just so I could kind of min-max a little bit more. But as it is, I'm just kind of forced into getting whatever is in the path. I mean, there's branches on it. There's things that you can skip, but it just but especially it's like it's the combat in the environments that really got to me, because all said and done, when you're leveling up your character on that grid, like it doesn't really, that's not that big a deal. Like I am making progress, but it's just actually out there in the world trying to get through these encounters, and they're just so dull that like just not fun. Just not fun.
I think I heard someone online say that they would have loved to see this game not as a game, but as like an animated short story.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the guys at Thunder Lotus, their animation is incredible.
They got chops in that department.
I'm so bummed to hear that the gameplay just isn't as strong as Jotun was.
Yeah, I gotta check out Joe. I mean, like, this game got a lot of good reviews out there, so it seems like some people like it. But you're listening to me now, so consider this a warning that maybe you're not quite going to get into. I should say that they mentioned the bit about sacrificing your humanity. That plays into when you beat bosses, you collect these things called Elder Shards, which there's this kind of big, disembodied voice that is guiding you through this game, and is like, at one point you come along this giant incinerator, and the voice is like, hey, don't you even think about throwing shards in there. Don't you think about it. So it's like you can either use these shards to, get some kind of dark power for your abilities that you have, or you can, chuck them in the incinerator. So like the ending you get depends on like how human your character still is, or how much you have given in to the power of the elder gods to further enhance yourself.
That's
so that's
pretty
where
neat.
that plays in. Yeah. It's just like, it seems like this game is just such a freaking grind to actually really get far in it. Like I think it was, I don't remember what review I read, after I'd kind of come to my conclusions on the game to see what other people thought. And like somebody, he'd put like a good 20 hours into the game and stepped away. Like he didn't finish it just because it was such a grind. And I'm just like, man, how did you give this game like such a high score? Like that sounds bad to me.
Hey, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Strokes for different folks. Maybe, I'd possibly better on a portable,
I was going to ask, do you think the fact that it is only on Steam and PS4 is limiting the game in that it's on the 2 most flooded game platforms out there?
Yes, for sure. There's plenty of other things to play, for sure, on those platforms. But yeah, I think like you get this on the Switch, and you might be talking like if I'm. I know there's a lot of fundamental problems I had with the game, but if I'm just sitting down to play it like on my lunch break for 20 minutes to a half hour, that sounds like a lot better. Like I might be able to, kind of grind through and keep, moving the needle at that point. Yeah, I think a Switch version would be great. A Vita Virgin, a Vita Virgin, whatever that is, the Vita. If people remember that game, that system.
I don't think the Vita is a Virgin because Sony doesn't fuck with it.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, get something kind of. If you can get that on the Switch, like that'd be a cool thing to see possibly. But as it stands now, it's just like I'd rather play other stuff on those platforms.
Well, fingers crossed the Sony money hatting doesn't keep it tied up for too long. But Tim,
did Jotun made it on PS4, didn't it?
Jotun's on PS4, Xbox, and Steam. I don't think it's on Switch. I'm not sure if the Thunder Lotus guys are looking into Switch stuff or not, but I hope so.
I'd hope everybody is looking into Switch stuff because man, there is room on there. Put your indie game on there.
Indeed,
needs to be stuff on that store.
Indeed. But Tim, thank you so much for coming on and joining us once again, talking about Sundered. It's a bummer to hear that the game isn't what we were hoping, but there's always opportunity. They could listen to feedback and take that into account, and maybe next time we talk about it'll be a bit more structured, less procedural stuff, and more scripted events than just dumping enemies onto you.
And hey, if just like a grindy ass Metroidvania sounds good to you, get on it.
And it's beautiful. It is fucking
it looks
beautiful.
Great. It's just it does look great.
So, any final words to sum it up?
Sundered. Maybe don't play it.
Moving on, the next games to talk about. We're welcoming our good friend Cole Martin back to the show. Cole, how are you doing today?
I am doing all right. Thank you. I hope you're all right too.
Yeah, it's one of those days. What are you gonna do?
You woke up not dead. You just kind of take it from there.
Progress. That is indeed progress. Yep. But you're here to talk about 2 games with me today, and the first one is called Cyber Complex, developed and published by PolarityFlow, released July 28th on Xbox One and Windows 10 for $9.99. In the year 2041, global corporations replaced countries, and the neurointerface implant became a requirement to work, a requirement to survive. Everything and everyone is connected. Every move is tracked, and there is no more space for individuality. A new implant from the Eurasian VI Corporation robbed us of the last scrap of our free will, and people lost their last bit of individuality. But some of us came together and formed a resistance. Join us today to stop VI's plans to enslave humanity. Join the resistance now. Cole, are you a part of the resistance?
I was a part of the resistance, and I enjoyed resisting. This is not what I thought it was going to be at all, based on the descriptions of it. And I had actually seen other people play it, so at least I was prepared. Because if you hear the description alone, it sounds very much like you're going to be picking up a gun and pew-pewing your way through some cyberpunk shit. You're not. This is very puzzle strategy-based game. It has again, like Grid, it kind of takes its own aesthetic ideology, if you will, from that classic 80s cyberpunk. This is what we think hacking is going to be in the future kind of aesthetic. I used that word again. A lot of the bright Tron-like grids and chips or squares on a board, and you want to move. Your character is basically nothing more than a little round orb, and he's blue. I'm generalizing by assuming it's a male. He's a little blue dot, and you want to move along the grid in order to take over segments of it. And this is how you basically hack your way through. You said VI. I've been pronouncing it Vi. There's no audio in the game, so say it however it makes you happy.
I just say V-I.
Yeah, because that's how it's written, but I kind of took it as supposed to have been like wordplay.
Maybe.
But
I kind of figured like virtual eye.
Yeah.
So VI.
So then I was saying Vi, like
instead
they were
of VR.
Vying for control.
Maybe.
But anyway,
all the double
Because
meanings.
there's so many potential paths for that. Anyway,
So I gotta know, what is the game like? Because I've seen screenshots of it. It looked incredibly interesting and intriguing. And then I watched Carnage play the game for, I think I was in there for a solid 10-15 minutes. And I'm still like, what the fuck is going on in this game? It looks so interesting. I don't understand it. And
it's hard to explain. It really is, because each level is nothing more than a red grid with a variety of little red squares. I guess they kind of... What's the word I'm looking for? They're in place as circuits, if you will. Or they're... in the overarching story, they're kind of... they're meant to represent people who are locked into this overall mainframe that, VIRI has control of. So in this futuristic setting, everybody and everything is online. And some, with their latest implant mod for people's brains, there was an inadvertent effect where people woke up from this simulation. And so now those people that are awoken are hacking into the system and trying to wake others. So it's almost kind of Matrix-y story-wise. But the gameplay itself is very simple in that it's just these grids and you just have the dots and the blue and the red squares. So you move your blue orb to a red square in an attempt to convert that square to blue. So you want to wake it up. Once they're awakened, though, they don't do anything necessarily to, help you, as in the blue squares don't go immediately to another blue square or whatever. But they will produce little nodes that have a connection to you and can help with eliminating the red nodes produced by the enemy. Woo, I lost my notebook. Which can, it's not that you have any kind of control over the attacks. They're not in any kind of pattern. As you move across the grid, you will leave a trail of blue of where you've been. And so the red enemy systems can kind of pick up on where you've been and try to follow you along. And they will, if they catch up to you and your orb touches, say, a red orb, which is the enemy, your orb kind of becomes corrupted. And so that takes away your health. Touch one for too long and become red, and you have to start over.
And you die like Carnage.
Yeah, you die like Carnage a lot.
Like Carnage.
It is surprisingly, despite the fact that it's all just like this flat board and you're just moving your orb around, it's surprisingly stealthy, because you do have the enemies and their nodes moving around the board as well. And there are boss levels every so often where there's actually a large spider, very cyberpunkish looking spider that moves around the board. And if he gets you, it's game over. So you have to convert all of the squares on the board before you can attack the spider, because then that takes away his nodes. He's not able to damage you. And the more blue that is on the board, the more likely the enemy orbs or the spider in the boss battles are to be susceptible to your damage.
Right, so it's kind of like
instead of
a virus infecting a system.
Yeah. Instead of you turning red, they turn blue, if that makes sense. So the goal is to leave with everything on the board being the light blue color. Once you've completed that, you can move on, and then there's another stage. And the squares and dangers and stuff, they will all be, different. They're all... each level designed different, but they're not procedurally generated. So it is what it is. Like, if you know the solution to get around the board, you've beat it. That's just all there is to it. But, you know, like you said, it's just... I lost my train of thought. Going down the way.
Well, it sounds very interesting. I know after watching Carnage play it for a while, I ended up grabbing it myself. For $10, what's your verdict on this one?
This is a buy it. This is not one that I thought that I was going to overwhelmingly enjoy. Even after I watched Carnage play it, I was like, it may or may not be okay. But once I actually played it, I really enjoyed it. My only major complaint is that there's like, the story is told through subtitles, if you will, but there's no voice acting or anything. There's no voiceovers. So the font used is incredibly small, and I imagine even on a smaller TV it would almost be completely difficult to see. It's just a really struggle to keep up with what's going on with the story, because it's only told through this text at the beginning, at the top of the screen, and it's small, it's hard to read, it goes fast, and you're just like, I don't even know what's happening, I just want to turn things blue and progress. So,
well, PolarityFlow, either make the text bigger or add some voiceovers. I'll do your voiceovers for free.
It would be nice to know the whole reasoning behind the story. Like, I played the game. I almost completely beat the campaign. I've got 1 or 2 more levels to go. But I had no idea. I know. Carnage 1K'd it. I'm slacking. If he can get more than an achievement, I sure as fuck can beat it. But, I had no idea what had actually transpired in the story. Like, why is the blue orb trying to hack everything? I don't know. I don't care. I just want to turn everything blue because it's really fun to do it. So yeah, I give it a solid buy it. It's well worth the $10. It's fun.
Sounds good. Next game to talk about, I don't think you're going to be as positive on, but this is kind of a joint review kind of deal. The next game to talk about is called Demetrios the BIG Cynical Adventure, developed and published by COWCAT. Released August 2nd on Xbox One and PS4 for $9.99, previously on the Vita and Steam. Bjorn Thonen, a slob of an antique dealer living in Paris, is robbed one night after coming home drunk. Forced to conduct his own investigation with the help of his neighbor Sandra, he ends up involved in a murky, mysterious affair. Will these unlikely heroes be able to rise up and discover ancient secrets? Embark on the journey of an idiot. You're not a fan of this game, are you?
I'm not. I really did not. I wanted to like it, and I just can't.
Because I loved this game. I thought of... let's start out. Explain what the game is.
Okay, so it's your basic point-and-click adventure. It's very... not anything game-breaking or genre-breaking in that regard. It's just an adventure, and there's point-and-click scenes, and you just find items and put them together, combine them, or use them in other scenes in order to progress the story. It's very narrative-heavy. It's about how you interact with the people to get, what you need and where you need to go, and to be less than dead. It's really, though, the story itself it's creative. It's neat. You got the guy that's an antique dealer. He's a total slob and a classic piece of shit kind of guy. But the underlying story, especially once you get past the whole aspect of him trying to track down the robber, and you uncover the actual story of the statues that he has bought and their purpose, it's creative and it's really well thought out. It's just that the whole thing drowns in poop jokes. And
to be fair, it has a potty humor slider, so you could turn off the poop jokes.
You can, but you cannot get some of the achievements if you do that.
Well, then you got to make a choice. Do you want to stay away from poop jokes, or do you want to pad an achievement score?
So, I got the completion just out of spite. You ever just not enjoy a game and you got...
So, let me get this right. You have an issue with the potty humor in the game, but your morals are so corruptible that you could just put up with all that potty humor to get the achievements?
Indeed. Well,
Wow.
I also considered it... Hey.
Your argument's gone.
Here's this. I considered it a service that I had to turn on the potty humor so I could do an adequate review since I had to do it twice.
Nope, I don't buy it, because you could have done it for a chapter and restarted the chapter and played it with the slider all the way off. But no, you not only went through the entire game with the potty humor filter on, you went out of your way to click on every option in the game that could possibly give you a vile or disgusting option, which is very apparent.
There are some really vile ones.
Which is very apparent in the game, and the hints that are given to you, and the fact that the potty humor filter is on, and you still did it. So your argument is dead.
Is that a failure to my argument, though, or a proof of my dedication to the cause?
A failure of your argument, because you could have just turned that off. I know. It could be. They have 3 options in the game where it's like full potty humor, kind of halfway there, and then no potty humor. You could have gone to no potty humor, and that's something important to point out.
That's not a fair way to review the game.
You could have beaten the game without the potty humor. You
could have
beaten the game.
All the potty humor, and I've been like, "What happened?" You do miss a good chunk of the game.
What happened? I had morals, and I have a personal high standing of myself, so I turned off the potty humor because I am above that. I don't have
any high standings of myself. We know best.
Instead, you went in knowing that you were on the full, filthy, disgusting bane of humanity setting, and you're complaining about it. I don't know. I can't let that go on this show. On some other website where you can just type up text and send it off, and someone else could read it, and that's it. That's one thing. I'm going to defend this game because I thought the game.
That's okay, and I'm not going to lie. My position on it and that I didn't like it is full well and admittedly knowing that I just don't care for potty humor. I know that. And I don't fault it. That's why I don't like the idea of saying it's a bad game, because I didn't feel it was bad. I just felt like the dialogue and the potty humor, it was just not my thing. So
turn it off.
I know.
Turn it off.
Well, but you can't turn off the fact that... Spoiler alert.
Now, let's be fair here. If you're going through the game, no matter what the setting is on, if you're going through the game with the pure intent of solving the game and not going for all the other achievements, you're not going to run into a lot of weird shit.
No.
It might happen accidentally.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you're intentionally going to choose the option that results in a child being murdered. Maybe, if you're bad.
That's one of those. I think a lot of the endings in this game are not meant to be canon. They're not meant to be serious. Right. And I think it maybe a child getting shot could be in poor taste. But in the context of the game and the fact that it's an absurd comedy, I don't really see an issue with it. It's meant to be an absurd, over-the-top comedy of a game. And even the description of the game is the journey of an idiot. This is a guy who's meant to be stupid, meant to be out of it. I know you mentioned you had some issues with some of the misogynistic lines in there. Well, the guy's a fucking idiot.
He's an idiot.
He's a slob. And again, like He's an idiot.
I had my issues and I rolled my eyes, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad game. It just, to me, it was in poor taste for me, and I just didn't enjoy that. But there are people that do, and I'm okay with that. If there are people who are going to be like, man, this was my shit, this was hilarious, I'm like, okay, enjoy it. I had somebody on my original written review who was like, "Oh, that just makes me want to play more." Okay, good. You found what you like. Good for you. I want to point out something else. I checked other people's reviews on this game, and I don't typically do that. But I looked to see what everybody else was saying, and most of the reviews were incredibly positive. And there's a good reason for it. The game plays well. The story is intriguing.
It's very in-depth as well. Like, he made text options for so many of the items in the game that you might never even consider looking at. It's just so much time and effort went into putting as much personality into this game as possible. And
exactly.
I think a part of that are the massive number of quote-unquote endings that you can get in the game.
68.
A number of them which are locked off based on your maturity setting, that I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
For example, in a police precinct, one of the deaths or the game overs is for using a photocopier, because it gives you a prompt to sit on it and scan your ass, because of course that's a childish thing to do. And as the cop is yelling at you, you end up shitting on the photocopier and get jailed for it, which is in my
But that doesn't
mind.
happen if you use the toilet before you go to the police station, for the record, too.
Or
so even other things you can do can.
Or if you have the maturity filter down, you can't do that.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. You aren't able to get that ending. So if you are a sensitive person, you can play this game without all the potty humor. It's then your call whether or not you're okay not getting 1,000 out of 1,000 on your precious achievement score. Which
well,
apparently,
and to be fair, you can get the 1,000 because the game over achievements, both of them, there are two. The game over achievements are actually both worth 0.
oh well, there
so
you go.
would still effectively have 1,000. You just wouldn't have the 100%.
So you did all of that for
And I didn't even
no
get it.
points.
Yep. See what I said? It's dedication to the cause.
Your morals are gone. Your shame, your morals. Cole, for $10, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's a tentative try it. There are people that are gonna love that kind of game. Maybe I didn't enjoy it, and that's fine. Maybe you will, and that's great. So, you know what? I think there's a free trial. At least try it out. At least it's point and click, and it's silly, and it's goofy, and enjoy it.
I agree with you giving a try it, because if you were going to say deny it, I was going to overrule you. My personal verdict is, if you are a fan of point and click adventure games, a fan of offbeat humor, whether or not it's filthy or not, since that could be adjusted, and just the sheer amount of depth and attention to detail in this game, for $10, I'm giving it a buy it. I think it's absolutely worth it. And I have no morals to be corrupted to begin with.
I think we all overstated my ability to have morals versus achievement score. So, but here's the thing. I didn't want anybody to say, oh, she didn't like it, she didn't even complete it, or she didn't play it. I played it to the hilt, literally to the hilt. You know,
you played it balls deep.
I did, and 15 hours of it, and I was miserable, and I didn't enjoy the humor. But nobody can say I didn't put in my time and effort. So, and that was a bigger reason for wanting to do it. Because when you know that you're not enjoying a game, you want to make sure you're justifying it. So I put in my blood, sweat, and tears, and to all the poop jokes, and then I still gave it a try.
Well, I at least appreciate the fact that you could see that despite it not mixing with your own personal sense of humor and your own personal values, whatever those values may be, after the fact that you still went and made sure you got 1,000 on the game. You whore.
Hey, look, at least I've got more than one achievement.
Still an awesome game though. So Yeah, I give it a buy it. You give it a try it. I forget what Henry Jones gave it because he covered the Vita game a while back.
That's something that's neat. It's no small feat for a developer to single-handedly create a game, but this guy created it on a platform that lets him export it to literally everything. So this is on mobile, this is on Vita, this is on PlayStation and Xbox and PC, and if you can think of it, you can probably buy this game. So if you really enjoy it, buy it everywhere. Get your poop jokes on. Take them in your
it's
pocket.
good to hear that you just upgraded your verdict to a buy it. So I give it a buy it. Cole gave it a buy it. Cole, do you have any final words to sum up your reviews?
You are a dirty, dirty bastard. No, enjoy the games. Whether I enjoy the prequel or not, enjoy what you like.
Moving on, the next game to talk about is called Leaving Lyndow, developed and published by Eastshade Studios. It released July 27th on PS4 for $3.99, previously on Steam. It's Kyra's last day on the island where she grew up. She needs to complete preparations, visit her favorite places, and say her goodbyes before leaving on a journey she may not return from. We brought our friend Chris Taylor on this because he's really good at leaving on journeys he may never return from. With all the concerts that you do and stuff like that. Chris, how are you doing today?
A little worried for my health now.
How was that terrible segue of mine?
It was a little rough. We got through it though. I mean, it was interesting.
Every time you perform on stage, you never know if you're going to come back alive or if the fangirls are just going to tear you to shreds.
Yeah, those fangirls. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that you don't want to get too close to those industrial-sized fans because they really can rip you apart, you know?
They're brutal.
Yeah.
They will hurt. So, Leaving Lyndow, tell me about this game.
Okay, so Leaving Lyndow, I was a little curious about this one when it was when you showed it to me, because it's like $3.99 and it looks really good. Like I don't know what the catch is. And so I thought I was procrastinating like terribly because I've been so busy this week. I downloaded it this morning, only just, and started it up like over my morning coffee. And so
completed it during your morning coffee?
Yes, actually. I downloaded it and played it and beat it over my second cup of coffee.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I heard it was a short one.
It is short, but there's more to it than that. So you boot up the game and you wake up in your room. You are I presume a lady named Clara, who is basically leaving on for an adventure. And the interface is extremely simple. Like there's no menu, there's no inventory, there's no nothing. You just walk around and interact. So you can pick up some things in your room, some things that you need for your journey, and talk to your mother, and then leave. Basically what it is that you start off in a set piece, and you can move around the set piece all you like and sort of interact with everything, but you have to interact with everything at least once to move on to the next thing. So in that sense, it's a journey that takes place from getting up in the morning to getting onto the boat to head for Eastshade. The name of the developer is also the name of the place where you live. Well, I mean, Lyndow is the name of the place. It's basically the country is Eastshade. I'm terrible with names. I keep having to read the name. I have to write down proper nouns or I will forget them. Dude,
I know how it is. I'm there.
Yeah. So, yeah, you walk around and you kind of just, you talk to your mother, and immediately I noticed that the insides of all these set pieces, just everything about the set pieces look like amazingly gorgeous. Like the graphics are, like for somebody like me who doesn't really play the best of the best, like all the time, on the newest gen systems, like if I see graphics that are especially pretty, then it really does take me aback. And that's the effect this one has. I mean, just looking at the windows, which have this sort of this sort of, I don't know what you call it, where windows are kind of intentionally warped to create a weird effect, like, so that they're not totally like smooth. They kind of look like cracked or whatever, but it has that effect. And you can look out at like this nice landscape, and it's really cool. And then you go and talk to your mother, and she is freaky looking. I guess the people in this island are some other kind of species that's this kind of Homo erectus or Australopithecus sort of, somewhere between man and monkey, because the people are really freaky. And I know it's probably intentional, especially given how good everything else looks. But it did remind me rather of a game that came out like over 10 years ago that was it was trying to be a cross between Ultima Underworld, which is an ancient first-person game that actually predates Doom, and Morrowind, which was popular at the time. It was called Arx Fatalis, and it's like it moved around and you did things like in Morrowind, but the character models looked so creepy that it actually was like a weird game to like play because just everyone looked so bad. But so it kind of reminded me of that, and. Yeah, so you move along to the next set piece, which is a forest. You go to which the forest looks just jaw-dropping. You go to your uncle's place and see his like vegetable garden, and he yells at you and stuff. Like all the people like are very concerned about you leaving to join the exploration guild and go to parts unknown. Like they expect you to stay on the island forever, and so you have these like Mass Effect style branching conversations with everybody where you choose your reactions, and like they're not super dramatic, like it's just kind of like conversations you would have in the real world. You can either be like kind of mean about it, or you can try and be nice about it or logical, or and there's nothing really tethering you to any of those. Like there's no good or bad affiliation type things. It's just you say something to them and their reactions are said, and then, you just keep going. The one thing is, though, that you cannot talk to a person twice. You can only interact with something or a person the one time, and then they just kind of ignore you. So, yeah, then I get to the final, not the final set piece, but there's a set piece where you go into a tavern, and I guess it's a tea house, actually. And you talk to some of the patrons, some of your friends, and like these are people that the player character knows, but we, the player, do not know. And you just kind of reassure them and everything. And the one thing I liked about it is that you can go up to the bar and keep asking for different kinds of tea that temporarily change like the color tint of like the whole view. And eventually, like every time you order another tea, the bar person becomes like more and more concerned about the amount of tea that you're drinking, until she just eventually cuts you off.
That's funny.
Like, no more tea for you. And then final set piece, you get on a boat and you leave, and then the game's over. So that's the whole thing. But then I did a little more digging, and I found out that the reason for all this is because Eastshade, it's Eastshade, right? What I was saying a minute ago? Okay. Yep. Eastshade is... They were working on a full game that's like a walk-around sandbox, like sort of RPG thing that incorporated like this full world that looked like this one little game. But they, I guess it's been taking a while or something like that, so they decided to release this. It's kind of a tech demo. Although they're calling it a prequel. So I suppose the full game is going to start with you having gotten onto the ship and, leaving for adventures and stuff. And I will say, as a precursor to something bigger, like kind of a pilot episode almost of a larger game, it is really effective at being compelling enough that you want to see more. Like I was jarred by the end of the game because I didn't know that it was going to end like so quickly. So now I'm like, well, okay, I do want to play this full game now. And so yeah, I was just like, I had to finish for this, but
So for the $4 they're asking for Leaving Lyndow, what's your verdict on this?
Okay, so here's the thing. I would say to buy it because essentially the purpose of this prequel is to show, because this is a new developer, as I understand. So it's to show people what they can do and like where they can go with it, and it's a nice little breezy walk, and like it has some cool stuff to look at, and it has some nice things to do. $4 should probably buy you a better game, but your $4 that you spend on this game are going straight to the developers to work on this bigger game. So the more people buy this and get interested in it, the more they can do with the finished product, which I'm actually really interested in seeing.
Yeah.
So I say just go ahead and buy it so they can make that bigger game.
Cool. And if you buy it on Steam, it's also $4 there. You could get a free soundtrack download.
Indeed, the soundtrack is very nice. It's ambient. It's very sort of a little bit classical. It's reminiscent of Jeremy Soul's Elder Scrolls soundtracks, but
I was expecting dubstep. So
yeah, irritating dubstep or some chiptune stuff.
And I also want to give you a personal shout out because you mentioned Arx Fatalis, and that is a game I haven't heard of in quite a while. I really enjoyed that back when it was on the original Xbox, way back when.
So the thing is with that one is that I bought an Xbox just to buy Morrowind, and I played Morrowind to death, and when I found out there was another game out there that was like first person type stuff, I was like, awesome, I'm gonna get that. And it took me, I bought a disc that was just a lone disc that was scratched to hell, and I played on that, and it was great. And then I finally found a box copy 5 years later and played it there too. So it took me a long time of knowing that the game was a thing and then not being able to play it, and then being able to play it but on a terrible disc. And so yeah, here's some fun trivia. Do you know who developed Arx Fatalis and what games they went on to create afterwards? Probably not, no. I might have known at some point.
Arcane Studios, who are the makers of Dishonored and Prey.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
How's that for moving up in the world?
Actually, a little bit of a shout out here. Rip in peace to Daniel. What's his name? I can't remember. The composer of Dishonored recently died.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, Daniel Licht.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, he took over. He's only done 4 games. He actually is the guy who made the music for Dexter, the TV show.
Oh wow!
And he composed. He basically took over for Akira Yamaoka, composing for Silent Hill. So he did 2 of the games there, the 2 later games. I forget which ones, but he also did the music for Dishonored and Dishonored 2. And
wow, you said he died recently. I didn't think you meant
this week,
4 days ago.
Yeah,
recent. Wow.
Silent Hill Downpour and Silent Hill Book of Memories were his other video games.
Wow.
So he was taken from us too soon, but he left behind some good music. So I gave him a little bit of a tribute in Hidden Sound Test with the ending credits to Dishonored, which was, I think the song's called Honor for All, and it's quite nice.
Nice.
But yeah. So it's all full circle kind of stuff, I guess.
I don't know how to wrap up this review now that we're talking about someone who passed away.
Well,
Chris, any final words to wrap up your review?
I was gonna say I don't like that final words business, but
any parting memories?
Any parting memories? None to speak of. I don't know. Stay in school and eat your vegetables and drink milk. Listen to what Mr. T tells you.
Next game to talk about is called Overcooked Special Edition, developed by Ghost Town Games, published by Team17. It released July 27th on the Nintendo Switch for $19.99. Working as a team, you and your fellow chefs must prepare, cook, and serve up a variety of tasty orders before the baying customers storm out in a huff. Sharpen your knives and dust off your chef's whites. There isn't much room for error. And the stakes are high in these crazy kitchens. Overcooked Special Edition features all the exhilarating and enraging kitchens from the main game, as well as both expansions. Joining us to cover this one is our good friend George Norg. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. How are you, Joe Cam?
I'm doing well, and you're not alone today. You brought some backup.
I'm not. I have a backup, and I have an even better gamer than I am. My daughter, Kyra, is here.
Hi, Kyra.
Hi, it's so good to see you again.
How are you today?
Great.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It sure is.
Do you think your daddy's going to let you listen to the whole episode?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so.
No way, no how. Mr. Jocam uses a variety of naughty words that you're not allowed to listen to, so we're not going to have that happen, no, sir.
And your father taught me most of them.
Oh, stop it.
So, the adorable one and George, how was Overcooked Special Edition on the Switch?
What did you think about it, Kyra?
I thought it was the loveliest game in the world.
The loveliest game in the world. Was it more lovely than Breath of the Wild?
Nope.
Okay.
Not a single tear.
So, what did you like the most about Overcooked when we played it? Well, let's see. Let me give you a couple of
the special words that you taught me, Daddy.
Oh, snap. Let's see. What did you think about
All of the little different things that we had to do inside of the game?
I loved it. It was the best thing in the world.
Wow, that's your catchphrase tonight. What was your favorite thing that you had to do inside of the game?
Cook.
Nice. We had a lot of adventures with this game because, like, in single player, it's virtually impossible.
Oh,
like,
sorry, I need to go.
What's that? Oh, you do? Okay, go.
I need to go to the bathroom, Joe Cam.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
This is the best review ever.
It's up there. It really is.
Okay. While she is relieving herself, I am going to discuss the single player experience that I had with the game.
Well, how about you start off? Tell us, what is Overcooked? What do you do in the game?
Overcooked is basically the idea of the game is from a mechanic standpoint. You described it already. You have to cook for the customers before they get angry and walk out, and that comes with a variety of recipes. So at the beginning, you have to get a variety of different vegetables out of the bins: tomatoes, mushrooms, onions, that kind of thing. And then the vegetables have to be chopped. Once they are chopped, you put them in the soup pot. Once they're finished cooking, you take the soup pot, you put it onto a plate. The plate then gets put on a conveyor belt, and then the customer is happily served, at which point they return a dirty dish, and then you have to wash the dish and start the cycle all over again.
I am back!
You are so back. And then once the dishes are washed, you have to get them out of the sink and then put them back. But you have to do a lot of those things overlap. So, like, you can't really stop chopping vegetables because otherwise you won't have anything to cook. And if you leave the pot alone for too long, it'll
burn, and we have to use the extinguisher.
That's right.
And now I'm totally back.
And what?
Now I'm totally back.
Now you're totally back. Yeah, if you don't get the soup off of the stove fast enough, it'll catch fire, and then your whole kitchen will catch fire, and then you have to throw the food away afterwards, and then you have to start over.
That did happen to us.
Was it your fault, George?
Probably.
Yeah, he was cooking the soup.
I was cooking. Okay, yeah, so it was on me.
I was washing the dishes and giving servants, their food.
I mean, if you were washing dishes, clearly it wasn't your fault.
Exactly. Hey, do you remember the very beginning of the game? What did you think was really cool about the very beginning?
The beginning.
What about it? Do you remember?
The beginning.
The fairy. Do you remember that monster that you liked?
I hated the monster.
You hated the monster. The giant meatball and spaghetti monster?
I hated it. That means I loved it. I hated 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 it.
You can't see it, but she is literally dancing around the phone. Oh my goodness.
You can't see it either, but I can't breathe. I'm laughing so hard.
Hey, what did you think of the music? Did it remind you of something?
Masha and the Bear is my favorite cartoon in the world, and it reminded me of Masha and the Bear. So I love Masha and the Bear. That's one thing you know about me now.
Now we'll be able to guess all of her passwords.
Nice.
Log
Good stuff.
Gingerbread. Password, Masha and the Bear. The music was awesome. I absolutely loved the music. Especially at the very beginning, like the apocalypse is now, and the dramatic choirs that are obviously a parody of a more popular piece of music, and then like the folksy music that's playing when you're doing the different levels. Remember when we were on the pirate ship and the middle kept moving back and forth and knocking us out of the kitchens?
And it was like...
Ow.
I think my cat can hear Kyra screaming because he's just staring at me right now and staring at the headphones.
Cat's all like, what?
Like, I don't know what's going on, but I hear crazy noises.
Wait, stop. Wait, stop. Screaming head.
Oh my gosh, you have got the giggles. JoCam could say anything right now and you would start giggling. That's amazing.
George, what did you do to her?
I don't know.
Like, are you just actively tickling her now?
No, we haven't even gotten that far yet. No, don't tickle me. That will not end well for you.
Oh, heavens.
Anyway.
I was trying to tickle you.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, I think this is the part where you ask us the all-important question.
Did we cover anything at all yet, though?
I thought we did. Well, we discussed the music, which was actually really, really good. And
which reminded me of Masha and the Bear, which is now my password.
I will say this about the game, though. The frame rate was a little bit disappointing on the Switch. I was expecting a smoother experience, and in an environment where the controls are pretty responsive in virtually every other game, it seemed like there was just the slightest bit of lag when playing on the Switch.
Were you playing it on the Switch or docked to your TV?
We did both.
Because I heard the undocked performance isn't the greatest, but it performs better while docked. I'm not sure if that's something they're working to patch or address, but I know it is an issue that has been brought up before.
That must have been it, because most of the time when we played it, I was playing it undocked, but then I tried it with Kyra docked, and I can't remember if I noticed it as much or not. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was I actually got a few other guys together and we did a couple of 4-player rounds. And holy moly, that was chaotic. And they increased the difficulty level based on the number of people you have playing. So we did manage to get through a few levels and 3-star everything.
I have one thing to say. I am totally backed out. That video game was amazing.
Was it? Is it your favorite game on the Switch?
No!
What is your favorite game on the Switch?
Lego City Undercover!
Oh.
I like Lego City Undercover. I do like that one.
Daddy calls it Lego City Underground.
I do that.
Grand Theft Lego.
Grand Theft Lego. Okay, so yeah, the music was fantastic. The graphics I thought were great. The lag was a little bit weird. The frame rate was a little bit weird. The overall concept of the game and the idea of having to have multiple players cooperating by actually talking to each other in a room together was fantastic. I loved it.
And when I had 4 guys together doing it, we had a great time playing it.
And it sounds like you had a great time playing it with your daughter as well, huh?
I can't even.
So, Kyra, I'm going to ask you, if somebody asks you about Overcooked, are you going to tell them to buy it, to try it, or that they should just deny it?
Try it.
They should try it?
That I think best.
That's an excellent answer.
And that's what Daddy's decision is, too.
I think she just broke my arm.
Daddy, is that your verdict as well?
You know, my verdict, at your initial introduction, you said it is a $20 game. Is that correct?
Yes, it is $19.99 on the Switch, and it does include both of the expansions that are paid DLC on other platforms.
So, try it.
Yeah, at $20, I say try it. It's a good game. At $20, if you can get it, if there's a demo version available of it, absolutely try it. I probably wouldn't get it sight unseen or without having tried it first.
Yeah, the demo version, definitely try. So,
what did you do? Leave the phone.
So try it.
Oh my goodness.
All right, and thanks again to George and Kyra for that. I'm not sure what happened at the end there, but we got to move on. Final game to talk about today after all the insanity. We'll ease things up with a game called Constructor HD, developed and published by System 3. It released July 25th, Xbox One and PS4 for $39.99, previously available on Steam. In a town where anything goes, you can't rise to the top without taking a few others down. From dodgy deals to shifty tricks, do what you got to do to go from small-time slumlord to filthy rich tycoon. Covering this one for us and wrapping up the show is our good friend Pernell Vaughan. Pernell, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right today, all right, though I think you may have spoken a little prematurely there about ramping down the weirdness, because with this game, yeah, you're going to get some of that. So.
There's some weirdness in this. This isn't just a straightforward town builder sim style game.
Oh God, no! I don't think I've ever played a game that had functions like this. And I know for a fact I only scratched the surface because there's definitely levels of development that I even get to.
Oh,
but this game is weird.
Well, I gotta know: are you a small-time slumlord or are you a filthy rich tycoon?
I'm a little bit in the middle there. I'm a middle ground thug just trying to get a buck. And
I'm a filthy rich slumlord.
There we go. I like that. I'll go with that. I'm a filthy rich slumlord who's just trying to keep his head low. Though this game really won't let you do that.
So what's the weirdness? What is Constructor HD? I know this game was supposed to come out, a year and a half ago, something crazy like that, and it just kept getting delayed, and it finally came out to seemingly little fanfare, and I gotta know, was it worth the wait? What is Constructor HD?
All right, so how do I go? Okay, let me start this off as easily as I can. So the way the game works is think of sort of like The Sims, but not. No, I will say it. Think of The Sims. Okay, so you start out. You're a guy. You are trying to develop a neighborhood. So you start out.
I just want to clear things up. You're asking me to think, and you're asking a lot right now.
Just picture simming. Picture some simming.
I'll Google images of The Sims.
But just like think of it like the idea is like you start out with a headquarters, right? Mm-hmm. And the game is like, okay, you want to start developing your neighborhood, so you have to build a plant to process materials to build homes. In this case, would be wood. So you build a timber factory. Which after that you send some workers. You have to actually populate all of your facilities with actual employees to work them. So you send a number of workers led by a foreman to the lumber yard to produce lumber. Once you hit a certain cap, you can start developing properties. And there are different tiers of houses depending on the material you have and how far along you've come in construction. So at the beginning, with wood, you can only build 3 types of homes, like a log cabin and like a bungalow, unless the bungalow is level 2. But basically, it's like 3 level 1 homes. And here's where it gets bizarre, and not like a lot of other games I've played of this type. So once you build the house, okay, you have to go to the house. you have to populate the house with a type of family. There are 5 tiers of family types, and each tier has 2 kinds of families. And the families' descriptions are based on these types of traits. Money, which is how much money they pay you to live there. Damage, how much they'll damage the property while they live there. Life, as in life expectancy, how long until your residents die? Regardless of how they do it, they will die. Stress factor, how stressed out they get and how easily they get stressed out. And reproduction, which is new and unexpected in games I've played in the past. So,
is that how frequently they fucking?
Yes, but it's not just that. It's how frequently they're banging out, and you have to choose the type of offspring they have. So different levels of family determine different types of people they can breed. Like early ones can only breed either new tenants or people that can become workers or employees at your plant. And they're churning them out like butter. So we're talking like the game will tell you like they're going to reproduce in like 190 days. And then all of a sudden you have this baby going to work. Like I don't know how the fuck the game determines when the baby is ready to do a job, but they're just churning them out. It's just so you have to. It's like, for example, I built my first house. I always tell them I want to produce rent. So I tell them, pay me rent. Next house I build, I want a worker. Next house I build, I want a new tenant to kind of get the cycle going. So once you've done that, you can also go into each individual house or property, and you can develop the internal aspects of it and they actually affect different properties of the family. So you can improve the bedroom, the bathroom, the living room, and the kitchen. And depending on which room you benefit or improve, different traits can improve in the house. So, for example, the bedroom means they'll become more productive at knocking boots. So if you want more babies, you got to paint the bedroom and give them a nice radiator or whatever this shit is that constitutes improving a bedroom in this world. And they start having sex better. It's really weird. I've never played a game where you are actually generating workers by just having them reproduce in your town. So
that's hilarious.
So that's one thing that happens about this game that's weird. Another thing about the game is you can develop their actual like property on the house. So you can actually improve the fence that goes around the house and give them different types of fences that involve things like noise canceling or higher defense, which I'll get to in a minute as to why the hell you'd want to do that. And you can also like set up like different gadgetries and like benefits. Like you can get something called a gadget factory, which allows you to develop trees and landscaping items that develop and put on the house lawn, or you can buy like, say, a computer to put in the house, which eventually allows you to get level 2 and level 3 tenants, which is weirder still. So this is the general cycle that the game kind of puts you on at first. You develop buildings, which allow you to get resources, develop properties, which you can then populate with people, make them happy, appease their issues, because they will have issues like noise complaints or give me a new fence or I'm moving out of your stank town or things like that. So that's the general starting point and just making them happy. But then there's another component to the game that is unlike any other game I've ever played in this genre. And that is that you're actually in a rivalry with 1 to 3 other players. And if you're not playing with other humans, it's just the PC. So this is an integral component of the game. Unless there's something I didn't get to yet, you have to play with rivals. So what happens is eventually you start noticing weird things going on in your town. Either that or you just start doing it because you're just ready to jump the gun that fast. There are different types of, they call them undesirables. And the undesirables are people that come into the game world and wreak havoc on your town. You can have thieves come to your town to steal resources from you or rob your residents' homes. You can have hippies that come from a commune which you build, which then go out and they can do a number of different things. They can throw street parties, which can distract people and cause a ruckus in the neighborhood. They can actually squat in empty homes. So say, for example, you built a house, but you haven't populated it yet. Someone can send a hippie to your town and they can squat in the house and you can't put anyone in it because the hippie's taking up your space.
That is hilarious.
It is the weirdest concept. There's some weird shit in this game. You can send rival workers to places to do spy work on them and prevent them from actually doing work on the homes and building construction and whatnot. It's a very weird game. And all the homes are able to be accessed through ways of like different subway networks that are spent throughout the neighborhoods. But undesirables are not allowed to use the metro system, but normal things like workmen can and foremen can. And here's another thing I thought was pretty funny about the foreman. Apparently, not only do foremen direct workers, sort of how like the gang worked in that previous game. I told you how you can send like multiple thugs and equip them to a gang, and they become like kind of like a roving menace. Mm-hmm. The foreman can be that with workers in this game. You can tell a foreman and 5 workers to go on the subway to another part of town and to start dismantling somebody's house. And if the opposing player doesn't have a mob connection set up yet, because you can actually set up connection with the mob and hire gangsters, you will not be able to really take them out. So you can make workers fight other workers. You can employ the mob to enlist gangsters to shoot up and kill other players, members. You can actually get poltergeists to haunt homes. There's a lot of crazy shit in this game, like a lot. You can get there's repairmen. You can hire a repairman and walk around your neighborhood and make repairs to, like, say, for example, if a psycho comes and runs a chainsaw through your houses and your fences and tears shit down, you can send a repairman out to fix all those things or repair people's homes. But there's an enemy character called Mr. Fix-It, who is a fake repairman who can be sent to a neighborhood to sabotage homes, like screw up the wiring or make their houses flood with water. It's really odd. And it's in a way that is unlike any game in this genre I've ever played. It threw me for a complete loop. And I was actually trying to get acclimated to it because you're monitoring a lot of stuff. You can pause the game and kind of scroll around the map, but certain actions you can't do while the game is paused. So you have to be comfortable eventually just getting off your high butt and just letting it get to work. But there's genuinely a lot going on. Not only are you managing your own town and trying to keep your tenants happy, you're trying to expand and buy new lots in the city so you can actually get new developments up and running, but you're also fending against rivals and also trying to sabotage them. So there's a lot of shit happening in this game at any given time. It is nuts, and there's a lot of options to it.
Damn,
but
that sounds crazy.
It's very crazy. Now, the thing that I found interesting in my mind was like my first concern was, oh my God, there's too much to do in this game. There's way too much to do. What am I supposed? How can I enjoy a game that gives you so much to monitor at the same time? But then that's when it hit me. I had to realize something, and that is that, and that's you kind of confirmed it just now with your mentioning of the description for the game. This is a $40 game. They intended for this game to have a lot going on. It wasn't meant to be like a $5 cash and was like, hey, build your town and smile about it. Mm-hmm. No, this is a different kind of game. The goal is that you need to be able to manage these things. And like with most games that you're not familiar with the styling of, you get used to it as you play. You learn how to manage it because once you start to understand how the development trees work and how to build out your property in anticipation of what's going on, like build your lumber yard to get log buildings, and then you can get a cement factory to build a gadget factory to eventually get a commune to actually start sending hippies to other towns and kind of start the ball rolling early. And then eventually you can get a computer into a house to put a family in there that's smart to raise a little crime baby. And then the crime baby can develop a building that lets the mafia move into your town. You can make connections to get gangsters defending against other hippies. And it just keeps fucking going. But the point is you learn through repetition and playing the game what you want to develop to build and when and how to best manage everything. Kind of like how StarCraft would work, I guess, back in the day. Yeah. Before you got to play StarCraft, everything felt overwhelming then, too. But then you get used to it. And this game works that way as well. So I feel as though they give you a lot to manage and enough to do that the game, if you're into this kind of style of game, like sim games, but you also want something a little different and odd, I think this game provides you with plenty. And in addition to that, there's other stuff in the game that I didn't even know existed. Like there's apparently like a mission mode that I did not. I guess you have to unlock the missions. But when I originally tried to go check that mode out, it wasn't all the missions were question marks and unavailable to me to use. So I didn't really do anything with those. But either it's just the version I've got, or you unlock them later. But I'm assuming that the missions will add some variety to the game as well and change things up for you a bit. So that's one thing I thought was awesome. There's also a pretty cool tutorial in the game if you're kind of concerned and worried about, man, I don't want to just dive in this game with no understanding of what's going on. The game gives you a pretty solid tutorial that kind of guides you through the early stages of the game and how to get yourself acclimated to the way they want you to play it. So you can do that, and it's like, okay, now I'm ready to get to the real game. There is a designer mode too, but I didn't mess with that. But I guess the idea is that you can design your own personal maps in order to allow people to kind of join up with you in multiplayer and have versus matches. Kind of like, I guess, if you were developing like a Fortune Street map or something.
Yeah.
And then aside from that, another thing they have in the game to help you get kind of acclimated is like, I don't have everything available to it because apparently there's like a few other things, but there is they call it a play guide, but all it really is the trailer for the game and an option that kind of explains all the enemy units that exist in the game. So again, so it doesn't outright the play guide doesn't outright teach you how to play the game, but it does teach you how to be a dick. And let's be honest, in some facet, some way, shape, or form, who doesn't need to learn how to be a bit more of a dick?
Very true.
So the game cuts you covered on that one. So it's
I guess this is where I would ask the normally $1 million question, but in this case, the $40 question. Pernell, what's your verdict on this game?
I think it's worth a try. Because, I mean, on one hand, I'm being blunt here. I don't like the art style at all. I don't like the art style. But I do like the concept behind the game. I like how different it is from basic Sims. And I like that it gives you a lot to do while trying to manage the game. So I feel as though if you are a fan of simming, but you want a little bit of a shake-up, this is a genuinely worth it to try. But if you're a fan of simming and you don't really want to deal with all this random stuff, I'd recommend to go to Avon Colony, which I reviewed last episode. My last episode, because that to me, as far as a general sim game goes, is the superior sim game. But this game offers a style of gameplay that Avon Colony does not have. So it kind of has its own niche in that world, in that environment. So that's how I feel about it in a sense. But what do you think based on how I described it? What would your takeaway be from that? My
takeaway is that I kind of want to grab this and give it a try because I'm never a huge fan of like the straight up sim stuff, which is, you know, why I enlist you to do this stuff. But
finally, I get it.
But the fact that it sounds so different and so unique and so odd has me very interested in trying it out to see the craziness that's there. So I think your try it recommendation sounds exactly what I'm thinking. I kind of want to give this a try. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing any kind of demo version of it or not. $40, I might have to wait for a sale, or you know, if there's a slow week coming up in the coming months. I know we are, getting ready to go balls deep into the holiday season. So,
yeah, I think if they have the capacity to do it and they're smart, more so the capacity to do it, they would put a demo out at least of some sort. Because again, this is one of those games I feel like if I saw it on the store, but didn't have access to it to play initially, or no one to tell me about it, I would have probably walked right over it. Because again, the art style doesn't grab me, and the game just sounds kind of like weird, But it's getting a chance to actually experience the game through the review and trying it out that I was able to say, this game has something to it that I would not have expected going in. And it's definitely something that I think makes it worth acknowledging more than just kind of walking by it.
Yeah,
because it's definitely different from the norm.
I also appreciate the fact that it has online multiplayer for a game like this that's so focused on fucking with other people. The fact that it's online, that's even better. Like, if it didn't have online, this would be a game that's like, well, there's so much focus on messing with your opponents and there's no online, but this has online, so...
I can't speak on it how the local multiplayer would work, but I genuinely would wonder how it would work. Maybe split screen at different points, just because of the fact that, again, it's like StarCraft in that sense. Like, you don't want the opposing player can't just scroll down to your neighborhood and see what you've done. So it's not like a fog of war unless there's an option I didn't see.
Does it have local multiplayer, or is it online only?
I'm thinking it might, only because when I went to the options menu to select a regular game, it gave me the option to set human, but of course I'm by myself, so I didn't attempt to set it. Yeah. But my logic is that the fact that when you're playing, you're pretty much scrolling around the map. You're dropping your stuff. You're sending foremen out doing all kinds of stuff. I can't imagine that being a very comfortable fit in split screen.
True.
But at the same time, as you probably would agree with, if they're capable of running it, and it's no harm off their back to set it up, it really doesn't hurt to have the option exist, because some people can't do the online, and even if they're like, well, this isn't the optimal way to play, but I'll take it over nothing. It's
very
good
true
to have. So,
well, Pernell, thank you so much for covering Constructor HD. I am very much interested in checking this one out for myself. That is it for the reviews on this episode. We are going to take a quick break, and I am going to be back with Stephen Crouse of Pixel Maniacs chatting about the game ChromaGun, which is releasing later on this month on consoles. We'll talk all about that fun stuff. But Pernell, do you have any final words to wrap this up?
keep your eyes peeled for killer clowns. I know it's not 2016 anymore, but they're still out there, and they're vandalizing homes in ways of which I don't even want to think about. This game prepped me for that, though I'm ready.
Welcome back. Thanks for hanging around. My guest at this time, calling all the way from Germany, Steve Crouse of Pixel Maniacs. Steve, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. I got to admit, you're the first person from Germany calling without a very distinct German accent. What's the story?
Well, I'm from California, actually.
What? I wouldn't have guessed.
I just live in Germany.
You have a normal American-sounding name with a normal American accent, calling from Germany. And you're telling me you're from America.
Yes. Very much so.
Oh, man. You're throwing me off. You're throwing me off.
Yeah, it gets everybody.
So you are from Pixel Maniacs. Later on this month, you guys are going to be releasing your game ChromaGun on Xbox One, PS4. For those who don't know what the game is, give us the sales pitch. What is ChromaGun?
All right, so the really, really quick pitch is it's Portal, but with colors. And there's a longer story behind that because that's just weird.
We're a very long show, so please, by all means, give us the long version.
All right, I'll talk very slowly then. So ChromaGun is basically there's this gun you no. ChromaGun is a puzzle first-person shooter. And you have this gun that shoots colors, red, yellow, and blue. And you have these enemies, worker droid floaty balls that also have colors. And those enemies are attracted to walls that have the same color. So what you want to do is you walk through the test chambers and you shoot the walls and you shoot the droids so they get attracted to the walls, or the droids get attracted to the walls. And you use that to just solve the puzzle rooms.
Now, I have spent just a little bit of time with the game myself. I notoriously have a very shitty computer. But Ben over there was nice enough to send me a Steam key so I could get some hands-on time with the game since the console versions aren't ready to go yet.
Right.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of
thank you.
A lot of really cool uses to the colors and the guns, and just the whole, mixing color. Even the first time you mix color, it's like, wow, you went to preschool or something like that. The achievement that popped up. I felt proud of that.
You should. It's a very good achievement.
Clap to myself. Yay, I remember.
You'd be surprised how many people don't.
Really?
Yeah. It's like people mix their first color. It's like, I think the first time you mix a color, you have a red droid and you shoot orange. You shoot yellow and it becomes orange. And people are like sitting there, it's like, shouldn't that be green? And we're like, no, like not at all. It's surprising. It's very surprising how many people have trouble mixing colors.
Why? What?
I mean, I get it when you're colorblind, but I mean, come on, red and yellow. I mean, come on.
Now you mentioned colorblindness. Does your game have a colorblind option to it? I didn't really mess around with the options.
Yeah, it does. We rolled it out without one, and because we just didn't think of it because nobody here is colorblind. And then people started saying, "Hey guys, I'm colorblind. What the hell?" The
pissed off emails started showing up.
Exactly. No, actually, they were all very nice. They were like, "Hey guys, I'm colorblind. I can sort of play the game, but it's really hard." And we said, "All right, let's do it." So what we do now is we display a little icon above the walls and the droids, which every icon represents a color, and you can mix the icons, which it's kind of hard to explain. Say blue is a vertical line and yellow is a horizontal line, then green would be a plus. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes complete sense.
So yeah, that's what we're going for.
Now, how many different color combinations are in the game? I'm going to guess that you guys didn't go overboard with like millions of the color possibilities, the full spectrum of the rainbow.
Yeah, we did at first. At first, it was sort of like Splatoon weird thingy where you could just squirt the walls and it would slowly start to get like a shade of green. But that did not work out. So now we have just, I think, 6 colors plus gray.
What was the change there? Like what made you decide to scale it back in terms of color amounts?
Because it was just way too much. Like just the options you had. I mean, you have like a million shades of green, and you have to hit that shade of green to get the droid to move to the wall. It would have been weird.
How many controllers and keyboards went flying when people realized that there were like a dozen shades of green that they had to decipher between?
No, we decided that really quickly. Actually, it was like, I think we had that for like a day or so before we said, all right, no, this has to go.
People do the wrong shade. They're like, this is bullshit.
Just smash the keyboard into the screen.
Oh man, just thinking that would be horrible if you guys had it with the multiple shades and it was still when you squirt one color and then a third color, it just goes brown or black. Oh my lord, people! I could just imagine how pissed people would get.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Constantly resetting the puzzle.
Right.
Oh man,
that's another thing that we really tried to fix with the resetting the puzzles, because you can really mess the puzzles up.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah. Some of the levels in the game are fairly large.
Actually, they're not. I think the longest you'll take for a level is like when you mess up at the end of the level and you have to reset. I think the longest that you have to do it again is like 70 seconds or so. So it's okay.
Well, then I'm just very slow sometimes.
Well, once you figure it out, I mean, the figuring out is the hard part.
True. Very true. I guess once you know what you're doing, it's a lot easier to get through the level. I could just, right. I know I've had a few levels where I'm like trying to figure everything out. It's like, how do I get this robot onto this button to open that door, to get that robot out of that door, to go over in this room, change this color. And you sit there for like 10 minutes trying to work everything out, constantly resetting because you squirted something wrong, which sounds filthy when you don't put it in context.
It does.
I could definitely see, like, if you have everything figured out, it's a lot quicker to just go back through. But I guess I was lucky enough to just like figure everything out as much as I can before getting
right. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Before bukakiing everything in the room with multiple colors.
Exactly. Yeah. Although that is what most people do. I mean, most people just go through and just I'm just gonna say just squirt all over the place, then go back, clean their mess up, and start again.
How many interviews do you guys do where you have to like just tiptoe around how you word things with this game?
Fortunately, in German, it's not that hard because there's other words you can use. I mean, I think we could probably go with shoot, although that might be misconstrued as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
man.
never if it helps you at all. It's never been this easy to just go in that direction. We never had that problem before.
Well, I don't. Is that good for my show, or does that just show how childish I am?
It is our thing, though. If that helps.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Right.
So the game first launched on Steam, February last year?
Yes. More than a year ago. It looked like hell back then.
What kind of differences are there in the game? Did it release as an early access game and it's just gotten this far over time, or has it just been patched to be improved in ways?
It was not early access. We decided to just go full release. Mostly because it's not really an early access game. I mean, it's story based, and once you play it, like you've played it, and you rarely replay it, because it's just once you figure out the puzzles, you know the puzzles.
No.
So we went full release straight ahead, and it was our first game, so we had no idea what the hell we were doing. Which I think you could tell when you played the first game. It was weird in places, although it was fairly bug free, I have to say. But it looked bland, sort of. So what we did when we started porting it to PlayStation and Xbox, we had to upgrade Unity, our engine, and that completely ruined the entire game. Like the lighting was broken. The controller, everything was broken. Like nothing worked. So we decided to just revamp it for PlayStation. We had to revamp it for PlayStation, and we decided to bring it to Steam as well.
That's good to hear. Like, what were the changes that were made? Like, I don't know how any kind of development stuff works behind the scenes. So, like, what was different with the new engine or with Unity that required you guys to completely rework the game?
Well, the biggest part was the lighting system. Unity, I think we started in 5.3. My colleague says I'm right. No, 5.2. We started in 5.2 apparently. And back then, I think Unity was using Beast for lighting, which is the lighting engine. And when we started developing for PlayStation and Xbox, we had to switch to 5.5 or 5.4. 5.4. And either in 5.4 or 5.3, they introduced a new lighting system, which is called Enlighten, which handles like the whole lighting system completely differently. And like all of a sudden, our screen was entirely white, and you couldn't see anything anymore, like except for a speck somewhere for the enemy. What we had to do was just completely redo all the lights in all the scenes and all the levels. So that was a big part of it. And then we decided to, just do it right, and we redid the sounds, and we redid the textures, and we upgraded the models, and just to make everything look better, because now we were working on a PlayStation or on an Xbox, and we knew like what machine we could develop for, because all our machines that we have at the office suck. You can't really play games on them. which is weird for a game developer to say. But now we had this reference, and we knew what a game could look like and still run at 60 frames.
Were you surprised when you had the game looking that good and you're like, oh my god, we could accomplish this with the game?
Yes, we did. We added reflections and metallic objects, and we were sitting there like, oh my god, this game looks gorgeous.
I'll tell you now, if anybody out there can relate to you with having a horrible computer, I am that guy. Because mine is like 6 or 7 years old, and it's at this point I think it's just held together with bubblegum and duct tape. So.
Well, that's how computers work, isn't it?
I think so.
That's the regular life.
The gerbil inside powering it is getting old.
Well, you can always replace the gerbil.
Yeah, but you grow attached. You don't want to just get rid of them, take them out to the farm or something.
Yeah, it's true.
Then again, maybe he needs to retire. Might be that time.
They have lovely farms upstate.
Oh man, you mentioned the port from Steam over to PC and Xbox. When did you guys decide to make it a console game? Was that the plan from the start?
Well, the plan from the start wasn't really a plan. I have to backtrack here a little bit. When the company, our company, before it was called Pixel Maniacs, it had a very, very long German name, and it sounded very, very boring.
Oh, I'm going to want to hear it.
So it's named after our boss, Benjamin Lochmann, and it was Benjamin Lochmann New Media GmbH, with GmbH being the German equivalent of sort of a limited.
Mm-hmm.
This is not it's not a limited, so don't nail me down on that one. Right. So back in that day, we were making mobile apps. We started, I think, 2011. We started with mobile apps, and we did all sorts of stuff. We had 130 apps in the app stores. It was everything from, Battleship to do your names fit together, or baby name generator.
Oh God.
It was everything. It was, and a lot of them were not good. Some of them were pretty good. But at some point, our colleague Andy, he said, "Hey, let's there's this game jam called Ludum Dare. Let's do that." I don't know if you know what a game jam is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
I know, but there's a chance our listeners might not know. You're free to explain what the game jams are.
Okay, so a game jam is basically sort of a party-esque LAN party sort of thing, where you just get together with your friends and you develop a game within a very short period of time, which is 48 to 72 hours or something like that. And you get a theme, and based on that theme, you have to develop a game. So what we did, we participated in Ludum Dare, and the theme was an unconventional weapon. Which now you might get, okay, that's where ChromaGun comes from. So our unconventional weapon was color, and we made ChromaGun within 72 hours, and it looked completely different.
Oh wow!
Back then it was weird space sea gun with weird sci-fi settings in space. It was strange. And it looked nothing like Portal, by the way, which now it does.
Yeah.
That's we decided, okay, that game is pretty fun. It was pretty cool. We got super great feedback from the community, and we said, okay, let's do this. Let's develop it further, and let's publish it. So back then, remember, we were still mobile app developers, and the most logical thing for us to do was to release it on iOS. And I don't know if you play a lot of mobile games, but a first-person puzzler on a phone is not fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, this seems like it would be a tough one to play on iOS.
Yeah, it was. And that's what our players thought. So we got a bunch of great reviews, like from news outlets, but nobody bought the game. Nobody bought ChromaGun on iOS, so it just bombed. And we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? Why doesn't it work? It's such a great game. And we decided that obviously it must be because first-person puzzlers on iOS don't work. So that's when we decided to put it on Steam. And I think it was around that time when we said, man, it would be great to see it on consoles as well. And that idea just kind of grew over time. And we signed up for a developer account for PlayStation and Xbox. And it just rolled on from them.
Nice. That's a pretty cool story, although I have to admit this is probably one of the more normal-looking games I've seen come out of a game jam. It seems every time I talk to someone who created their title at a game jam, my first question of the interview is, what drugs were you on when you made this? And they're like, well, the only drug we were on at the time was exhaustion and caffeine.
Right. So. That's mostly it, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I agree. I mean, there's a lot of experimental games, I'm going to say, that come out of game jams.
See, I would just word it as weird shit.
I agree. There's a lot of weird shit going on there.
Indeed. So congratulations on making like a normal looking, well put together game at a game jam that doesn't have me questioning what substances you were abusing at the time.
Thank you very much. Although you might feel differently when you see the game jam version. It looked pretty weird. The enemies were like weird colory blobby things. I don't even know how to describe them.
Which is, I guess, significantly different from spiked floating orbs.
Significantly. I don't know if you can share pictures on your site here, but I can send you a picture later on if you want.
Our YouTube version of the show is usually just like a static image, so I could always just make a static image the image for the show.
There we go.
And then people will see it and they'll be like, what the hell is this game? And then they'll listen to the show and be like, oh, okay, that's not how the game looks like now. All right.
Right. Let's do that. That sounds good.
You mentioned bringing over consoles with PlayStation and Xbox. I saw on your Twitter account wearing a PSVR headset. Is that something you're working on?
Yeah. Yeah, there's like ChromaGun is sort of the you're M-rated, right?
Yes.
ChromaGun is sort of the whore of video games around here. We do like ChromaGun is sort of we do everything to that poor game that we can't think of. So it started out as iOS. Actually, it started out in Game Jam as WebGL. Then it went to iOS. Then it went to Greenlight. Then it went to Steam. Now it's going to PlayStation and Xbox. Then in between that, it went to Oculus Rift. Then it came out of Oculus Rift again, and now it's going into PlayStation VR. So we had this blog post on the PlayStation blog, in which we sort of introduced ChromaGun. And then somebody on the blog said, this would be great for PlayStation VR. You have to include PlayStation VR. And in my infinite wisdom, I said, yeah, I'd love to do the port. I'd love to see the game in PlayStation VR. But we have to cater to demand, so why don't you guys just spam our email inbox and we'll see what we can do.
Oh, God.
Not knowing
what did you do?
That's what I thought. Like, I went home all proud of myself, and then in the evening, like, I got my phone out and I read my emails, and I was like, fuck, this is really working. So, like, overnight, we got, like, our entire inbox was filled with emails, because apparently the PlayStation VR community is super, actually. I mean, they're, like, really, really into it, and they really stick up for the headset, or for the platform. And somebody posted it on Reddit, and it went to top 1 hot in the PSVR Reddit.
Oh, God.
and then more sites picked it up, and it was nuts. It was crazy. So we talked to our account manager at PlayStation, and we were like, hey, do you think that's a good idea? Should we do that? Could we expect that to work? And well, the end of the story is we're looking into it.
So it's not going to be something that releases on the 22nd. It's something that you're hopefully working on for a future release.
Exactly.
Maybe gotcha.
End of the year, but definitely not in August.
Makes sense. I could see this being a bit of a task to get working on the PlayStation VR.
Definitely. Yeah.
So how badly was your phone on fire with all the emails?
I had to turn it off.
Wow.
To be able to sleep. Yeah.
Just going off every 2 minutes, your phone just new email.
Yeah, it's weird. You're watching Game of Thrones, and every time somebody dies, it goes bing.
It knows.
It knows, yeah.
Now, I know PlayStation fans are very passionate with some of their platforms. I know PSVR. Was there a passionate fan base for the Vita owners contacting you guys about the game?
Not so much. There were a few. I think there were one or two people who said, "Hey, is this coming to PS Vita?" But it wasn't that much.
I'm kind of surprised. I know a lot of people we talk to. They're like, "Yeah, we weren't ever thinking about doing a Vita version of this game," but then one person asks, and it's just a tidal wave starts of Vita owners oh, are you going to bring it to Vita? This would be perfect on Vita. We want it on Vita.
Right.
Because the Vita is such a great handheld, but it's been so criminally ignored by Sony. And it feels the only way to get new games on the Vita is the fan base just demanding it. And it seems developers see the passion and the outcry for Vita releases, and they do what they can at least. It's sad to see some games getting canceled for the device, but...
Yeah, that's what I've heard from friends. But for us, the PSVR community was just much louder.
Yeah. What kind of differences would be made for a VR version of the game? I'd imagine mobility would be something that you'd have to look into.
Well, yeah, definitely. We have we integrate the aim controller, which would probably be a perfect fit for the game. And other than that, I think the whole mobility thing wouldn't be that much of an issue, because you could just, you'd use the DualShock 4 or the aim controller to walk and to hold the gun. But I think the biggest, I see two huge problems that we're facing. And one is performance. We're barely scratching at 60 frames per second on the regular PS4, and I think we're rendering ChromaGun at 900p. So we're not even at 1080p because we just can't do it.
Yeah.
We're at, and on the PSVR, we'd have to go full 1080p, and we'd have to render it at 60 to 90 frames per second.
Oh wow. So it would take some definite working and black magic, I guess.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, we have to concoct some weird shit onto that thing to make that work. And the second big issue I see is that we did not design ChromaGun to work in VR, which means our levels are very, very tight. I noticed that when we first ported ChromaGun to the Oculus Rift back in the DK2 days, when you walk through the door, a door is I think not even a yard wide. It's like 3 feet or so. Mm-hmm. So walking through a 3-foot door feels very uncomfortable, which is a super big deal in VR, because in ChromaGun you walk through a lot of doors. And the thing behind that is that our ChromaGun is like our level editor is based on tiles. So the entire ChromaGun is based on 3x3 foot tiles, and that's where that comes from. So I'm afraid that it would just feel super cramped, and that's a big thing we have to figure out, because there's no simple solution to that.
Yeah. Something else that I would worry about with a PlayStation VR version of the game is, I know like Vive and Rift, they have VR options that you can set up multiple cameras or multiple, I don't know, whatever the hell they call them, that you can have like a full room VR.
Right.
And PlayStation VR doesn't really have that option. They just have the one camera that you have by your TV. And I know some games that on a VR for Vive or Oculus, the version, you might be able to like turn around and, you know, walk around, but it seems a lot more restricted with PlayStation VR, in that some games where I'm trying to think what the one was. It was like some kind of shooting out, Lethal VR. I know on the
VR. Okay.
On the PC version, it's kind of a shooting gallery style game, and you'd be able to shoot basically 360 degrees around you. Where on the PSVR version, they had to rework it so most things are basically the 180 degrees in front of you.
Right.
Since if you turn around, the Move camera is just not going to see you.
Well, you do have like the PlayStation VR is light tracked, right? So it's optical.
Mm-hmm.
You have these light like dots on the headset, and there is one in the back, so it does recognize the headset when you're not facing it. However, it's not as good as, for instance, the Vive. So that's true. You most of the times you do it like you make the action occur somewhere in front of the player. Although I do think that's like best practice in general, because it makes sense to not spin the player around as much, because at some point you're going to get tangled in the cable, and you're going to hang yourself, and you're going to suffocate.
Hey, that's the mark of a good game. The game is so good, you're willing to die for it.
And if it's the last thing you do, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I want my game to make me get lost in my own house.
Take the headset off. You're somewhere in the basement. You're like, fuck.
Like in the shower. What the hell? Wife's pissed. Like, what are you doing in here?
She's on the toilet. She's. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
It's going to be some work. It's going to take some work, especially if we want to do the whole bathroom thing.
Yes, very true. You need the special bathroom level in the game. Oh man, we've been talking about the PlayStation version. What about the Xbox version? The Xbox One is notoriously less powerful than the PS4, and you said that you're struggling to get 90p or 900p and 60 frames a second on the PS4. Right. What's the Xbox performance looking like right now?
On Xbox, we're rendering at 720p.
Still hitting 60 frames?
Yep.
Well, that's good at least.
I think so. Do we have 60 frames on Xbox? Yeah.
Nice. Hey, as long as it's a smooth game, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about the Ps. I grew up with Atari and Nintendo.
Right, so right.
I'm not a massive stickler for the greatest resolution. I don't need like 12K visuals and
right, yeah.
all that crazy
That's what we
shit.
We had to make a decision between 720p at 60 frames or 1080p at 30 frames, and we were like, all right, let's do 60 frames then.
Are you guys looking into an Xbox One X patch when that version of the console comes out?
We might. We probably will, but we'll have to see.
And on the flip side, do you have anything special for PS4 Pro owners?
If I'm not mistaken, we're rendering at a higher resolution on the Pro. Did we go 4K? No. We didn't go 4K. But I think we're somewhere above 1080p.
Yeah, we are.
On the Pro. something between 2 and 4K.
Someone just whispering you notes.
Yeah, the lead developers just telling me what we did because I can't remember for the life of me.
So what is your role at the company?
I am creative director, which is a fancy way for saying I was the first game designer at the company, and I just when more game designers came on, I just assumed the role of creative director.
So you make the other developers just like get your coffee and stuff?
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice.
No. Actually, I tried that once. It didn't end well.
Get your own fucking coffee, ass.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was not that nice, though. No,
I chuck it at your head.
Here's your coffee. What I do is basically I'm in charge of making the game pretty, which I hope I managed to do in ChromaGun, sort of, kind of. I do game balancing, game design, a lot of different things. It's really hard to say.
A jack of all trades?
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice. Now, I know the Steam version of the game has Steam Workshop support where people could create their own levels. Are you going to have that available on the console versions at all?
Probably not. Because on consoles that's a lot more difficult to pull off because of reasons I can't talk about. But let's just say consoles don't offer like workshop integration as Steam does. Steam has a very, very tight integration of workshop and a very, very nice integration, which is pretty easy to use. And there's just nothing like that on other platforms.
Are you going to look into possible ways that maybe you could take the maps people have created on Steam and make them, at least those maps, available to players on console?
We might do that. We've been thinking about that. Not sure if we're going to do it. Definitely not at launch. We might patch it in at some point, but we'll just have to see how the game performs at all, because like I said, this is our first game and we have no idea if we're going to make any money at all. So we'll just have to see.
How's the performance been on Steam?
It's been okay. It's not that great, mostly because we completely screwed up marketing. And by completely screwed up, I mean did not do. Like we used to do apps, right? Mm-hmm. And when marketing an app is very, very different from marketing a PC game, because when you do a mobile app, you put it on the store, or at least that's how you did it when we were still doing it back then. You put it on the store and you advertise it on like Facebook or wherever. You try to get installs to get attention on the App Store, to get a better placement on the App Store, and then you get more sales. That's not at all how game marketing is. Like, not at all. So that's what we did, and it did not work out. So nobody knew about the game when it came out, which was bad. But we hope that we're doing it better now on the consoles, so we'll just have to see.
What kind of steps are you making on the console releases to get the game out there and for people to know that it exists? And I'm assuming the fact that console marketplaces are significantly less flooded than Steam is going to help as well.
That helps a lot, yeah, definitely. I mean, I myself, like when I go through the PlayStation Store and look for a new game, it's been a few times that I've just reached the bottom of the page where no more games were left. Just looking through the games, and that's a big point. You could never do that on Steam.
No.
You'd be dead before you reach the end. So that helps a lot. The PlayStation has given us some great support marketing-wise on Twitter and on their Facebook pages and with their blog and everything. In Europe, we have a pre-order for ChromaGun and very good placement on the store as well, so that helps.
Nice.
And also we started influencer marketing a while back, actually a few days ago, where we hand out keys to the press and to influencers.
Nice. So
that's some of the stuff we do.
Are you guys doing anything special for pre-orders?
Yeah, it's 20% off for PlayStation Plus.
Nice. Anything on Xbox or just on PS Plus?
We're gonna have pre-order on Xbox starting the day after tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
So pre-order should be up by the time this episode is out.
Probably.
Nice. And will there be a discount there or just full price?
I have no idea. I cannot tell you. I don't know. Unfortunately, Ben's not here to tell us. He handled out the details.
Oh, man. I do want to say thank you very much for releasing on like the 22nd and 23rd and not on the 29th, because it seems every fucking game in August is coming out on the 29th at this point.
That is true. That is why we're releasing on the 23rd and the 22nd.
It is insane. It seems like every time a new game gets announced, August 29th. Why?
Right,
Please, stop it.
That's true.
Like, just on Xbox on the 29th is the full version of Ark, Dead Alliance, Hello Neighbor, Killing Floor 2, Pillars of Eternity, Resident Evil Revelations. The 30th has the Metronomicon. I know PlayStation gets more games on a weekly basis than Xbox does. It's like, calm the fuck down, people.
Yeah, like we were actually going to release a lot earlier, like as in June, but we just didn't get done. So this was like the latest that we could have released before getting into the whole AAA, AA shitstorm of releases.
The holiday rush is upon us.
Right, exactly. It's like people are rushing towards Uncharted and you're standing there like, hello, I'm here too. Which incidentally, we're releasing on the same day as Uncharted, which might be bad for us, but hey. Who wants Uncharted when you can play ChromaGun, right?
Seriously, fuck Uncharted. I'll fully admit, I'm an Xbox guy. Like, I own a PS4, I have the Pro, I have the VR. I play it when I need to, but I prefer my Xbox. I really do. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll say the controller's a big part of it.
I understand.
I have always hated the DualShock, and I wish they would move on. The design is 20 years old. So
that's true.
I don't know. Plus,
I like it.
Plus, I know a lot of developers that we've talked to, they say that the PS4 marketplace is starting to become a lot like Steam, where just so much is releasing on there. It feels harder to stick out. But I guess being in August is a lot better than trying to release in, like, I don't know, November.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
yes, I cannot say anything about that. Ask me again in like, I don't know, 2 months or so. Hopefully I'll have answers by then.
I'll hold you to that. That sounds good.
Do that.
So how long have the console versions been in development?
Whew. Wow. We started console development probably around February this year.
All right.
When did we start console development? Yeah, February this year.
So 6 months to get it working on consoles. Not bad.
Pretty much. 6 months working on and publishing it.
That's pretty good. Did you guys consider talking to an outside publisher to help with marketing or anything like that? Or were you guys pretty set on doing it all yourself?
Well, we did think about getting a publisher for our subsequent games. The upcoming Escape the Loop, which is sort of a Groundhog Day-ish game. And Can't Drive This, which is our second game. We thought about getting a publisher for both of those. In the end, we didn't, because we just I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like we like to know what we're doing ourselves, and we like to not sit behind a black box.
Makes sense.
On the other hand, we have no idea what we're doing. We're slowly learning what we're doing, so we might get a publisher in the future, but right now it's not looking it that way.
Are you guys planning on bringing your other games to console as well?
Yes, definitely.
How would Can't Drive This work on console?
Oh, what do you mean?
With having a friend creating the track as you're trying to drive?
Right. Well, you have two controllers, right?
True. Is there going to be any kind of online play for people who are alone or anything for single players?
We're probably going to have online. We're most likely going to have online play. Single player, we've toyed around with the idea, but nothing that we could announce. Like, we're not sure if it's going to come. We're not sure if we're going to keep researching in that direction, or if we're just going to go for online. We'll have to see.
All right. Yeah, I haven't had any time with that game. I'm basically just looking it up for the first time kind of right now, and it looks insane.
It is insane, yeah.
how many friendships have you destroyed with this game, by the way?
I think all of them. So just real quick, for anybody who doesn't know what Can't Drive This is, I think you said it already. It's I'm not sure if I'm going to call it co-op, because it's sort of co-ops. It's half co-op, half competitive. You have one player drives the car, the other player builds the track at the same time. That's pretty much it. It's messed up.
That
completely messed up.
I want to see this game in motion just to see what it's like and to watch people play it. And like, do you play the? I know on your pages on your website, everyone seems to have a Twitch channel. Do you guys stream Can't Drive This on Twitch?
No, we usually would stream development of our games, which we haven't done in quite some time. But what we do is we have sort of a talk show on Thursdays where we get other people from the games industry and just talk to them. Sort of like what we're doing right now, just with picture.
I think you guys should start streaming Can't Drive This and see how long your company stays together.
Well, we've had some fallouts when we played it during the testing period.
Oh man,
we decided never to play it again.
Imagine the fist fights that would come from this game.
Oh, you should watch some of the YouTube videos. It's nuts.
I'm going to have to, because like this was a game I didn't really know existed. I've just kind of been focused on ChromaGun, and now I see Can't Drive This, and I need to see more about this game.
Yeah, like Can't Drive This is more of our. It's more showable than ChromaGun, and it's more gifable as well,
and more violent. I'm assuming after
in real life,
people have played together. Oh man, yeah, I definitely hope to see that one come to console, because that one looks ridiculous.
Definitely. Like, the first thing that we're going to start working on after ChromaGun VR is likely going to be Can't Drive This for PlayStation and Xbox.
Nice. And what about Escape the Loop? You said that's kind of like a Groundhog Day style game. What's the story with that one?
Right. So Escape the Loop was my my bachelor's thesis back then. What it is it's a first-person adventure action puzzle story game. You're stuck in a time loop, and you have 5 minutes to solve the game. And after that, if you don't manage to solve it in 5 minutes, it completely resets, and you have to start over and just figure out where to go from there.
Oh my god.
So it's a lot of talking to people. It's a lot of remembering what's going to happen next, and just taking that and using it to your advantage.
I like the difficulty warning on Steam. This is not a casual game. It will not help you.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that Steam description is a little bit outdated. We're not going to be going into early access. Instead, it's going to be divided into episodes.
Ah, interesting.
And I can't say too much, but time might start behaving even stranger than just looping.
Getting some hints on the show.
Oh.
Is that something that you guys are considering for console as well, or just focusing on Steam with that one?
That's going to be PlayStation first. Like that's our development goal, is to go on PlayStation, like do the PlayStation thing first, or Xbox, which basically do console first, because that's the more difficult part, and then doing basically a port to PC, and then releasing everything at the same time.
Okay, all right. You mentioned PlayStation first or Xbox first. Is it going to be like, are you looking into exclusivity deals or timed exclusive deals, or is it just like manpower, we can only focus on one at a time?
Well, the idea behind that is that it's just harder to develop for consoles from the whole programming thing, because you have to focus a lot on how does the controller work, and can we do this on the console, and can we do that on the console. On PC, it's pretty much the Wild West. You could just do whatever. So we just want to do the hard stuff first, and then simplify that to bring it to PC.
So it's more developing on those platforms first, not necessarily releasing on those platforms first?
No, right. We're planning on releasing all at the same time.
Nice. And what kind of release window are you thinking of for that one?
I have no idea. I cannot even. I can't even ballpark that.
When it's ready.
Yeah, exactly. When the next Duke Nukem is out.
Oh, sounds good. So never. Have you guys looked into the Switch at all?
Yes, actually. We are thinking about, do not hold me to this, bringing Can't Drive This to the Switch.
Nice.
We are Nintendo developers, like registered Nintendo developers. So far, we still have to get our hands on a dev kit, and we'll have to see how it works, but that's definitely something we're thinking about.
Is ChromaGun something that could possibly show up on the Switch as well?
It might eventually, at some point, probably not, because we're starting to get kind of tired of the project because we've been working on it for 3 years now. We kind of want to do our other games finally, which we're not getting around to. But like I said, ChromaGun is the whore, so it might.
Yeah, you say it's on everything. I want to see if it's really going to hit everything. I want to know, like, when the Atari Jaguar version's coming out.
Right. Yeah, we're going to do a text adventure as well.
Oh, man, that'd be amazing. I know a lot of developers out there, like, they'll start development on something like an NES for a retro-style game and work from there. Have you guys ever thought of focusing on, like, an older-style game and, like, let's develop this with, like, Dreamcast specs in mind, because people still release Dreamcast games even in this day and age.
That's true. We have thought of it, although it's hard to say if that's at all reasonable for us to do from a finance or from a financial point of view. We have thought of it, but that's pretty much all we've done so far.
Can make like a Super Nintendo version of Can't Drive This and use the X band for online play.
That would be great.
If anybody out there even knows what the fucking X band is. Oh man.
Oh, the day.
Did you own an X band back in the day?
I did not.
I want to find someone who did.
Did you?
No, I did not. The closest I ever saw to online gaming back then was an old neighbor of mine had, I forget what it was on the Genesis, because I had a Super Nintendo growing up. I didn't have a Genesis, but they had the Sega channel. So
right.
Like they downloaded the Mega Man game that was on there, and like that just blew my mind. It's like you're getting stuff like Over the phone line? Like
Right,
a video
right.
game on the phone? Like, how does that work?
It was black magic.
And now these days, you can't imagine being without the internet. It's
That's
crazy
true.
how this world has progressed just in our lifetime.
Right.
It is insane.
Nobody
So-
goes to the store anymore.
Yeah, like, why go to the store when you could just order everything on Amazon or something?
Exactly.
I guess milk. You don't want to ship milk in the
Amazon does ship milk, though.
I don't think I would trust them.
Me neither.
Like,
Never
UPS
did
has
it.
a hard enough time delivering my games on time. I don't trust them with milk in a hot truck in the middle of summer.
Right.
It's not going to
Yeah.
end well.
No.
It's going to end with me in the bathroom and not playing a VR game.
At best.
So you have ChromaGun, you have Can't Drive This. What else is going on at your studio? What else is being worked on or considering? What's being planned? What kind of parties are you having?
Well, we're gonna have the ChromaGun release party during Gamescom, which is when we're releasing ChromaGun on
Nice.
PS4 and Xbox. Other than that, not much. We're like the PSVR thing. Escape the Loop is hopefully starting development soon again. Like we had to push that back for the PS4 port or the Xbox port, and now we're gonna have to probably push back a lot for the PSVR port. I think that's pretty much it. ChromaGun, Can't Drive This, Escape the Loop. A lot of conferences we're going to.
Nice. What do you guys do in your spare time when you're not developing a game? Like, what games are you playing on your own?
That's a very good question. What have I been playing? I've been getting together with friends playing Alienation, which is a lot of fun.
I don't think I've played that one.
Is it? It could be PlayStation exclusive. I think it's a Sony.
Oh, is
title.
that from Housemarque?
I don't think so. That Housemarque doesn't ring a bell. Hold on. Yes, it is.
So I
it
knew
is
what the
Housemarque.
game was. I just haven't played it myself.
It's pretty good, actually. It's a lot of fun.
I know they make solid games, so I might have to grab that sometime.
Definitely, you should. It's a hoot.
The isometric twin stick shooter style thing.
Right, exactly.
Nice.
Really well pulled off. I absolutely loved the new Doom.
Yeah, that's a really, really good game. That's I think they did a classic game for the new age perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Just
from
over
a
the top
pure-
crazy.
Absolutely. From a pure game design perspective, it was just so well put together and so well balanced. Like you're constantly running out of health, but you rarely die.
Yeah.
Very well done. At least, I don't know, for me.
The soundtrack. Oh man, Mick
Oh
Gordon
my
just
God.
destroyed
Fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a great game. Right now, I'm battling a colleague for level 14 on PlayStation trophies.
Ooh.
So I'm picking up all the old games from the from under the TV and dusting them off and getting the last trophies.
I just had to look it up. I'm level 16. Suck it.
Oh, and you're not even you're an Xbox guy. Shit.
I am. What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna beat your ass.
Do you want to talk achievement numbers? What's your achievement score at?
Oh man, I didn't play Xbox since the Xbox 360. Hold on. How do I look that up?
No Xbox One over there?
No, only the dev kits.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're mortal enemies now, I guess.
it seems like it. Nothing we could do.
Oh well, at least we could be cordial about it.
You have to, die.
Yeah, but before we kill
Yeah.
each other, clearly, in
Exactly.
the great
You have to be
console war
adult.
of 2020, it's happening.
It should. At some point, it has to escalate. At some point.
There can be only one, And then it'll be either Xbox or PlayStation. The other side will be completely dead, just bodies, corpses streaming the streets, and then Nintendo fans, because they just like staying out of everything else.
Yeah, there's just like Switzerland. They don't care.
And then the PC master race, but they're too busy like in the basement anyway.
I like that. That's a good picture. Yeah.
This is going to be a gigantic world war all across the globe between PlayStation people and Xbox people, and PC gamers are just going to be playing still like fucking losers.
You're going to be playing Counter-Strike. Oh, you all suck. I play Counter-Strike. Wow. People are going to hate me for this.
Oh man.
I should, like when doing publicity stuff, you should always refrain from doing these things, or from taking a side.
Yeah. It's okay. No one's going to hear this. I can't help it. I love my Xbox side. I enjoy, but I own everything. So that's the mark of a good gamer. You own everything and you have your preferences from there. At least I'm not one of those guys.
Shut up about it.
Yeah, at least I'm not one of those guys like Xbox all the way. Sony sucks. I'll never touch a PlayStation because I have one and I play it regularly because I have to.
That's it's stupid to say anything else, honestly.
Yeah, have your preferences, but play everything. Don't ignore any of the platforms because you're only going to miss out on awesome games.
Exactly.
See, it's all about love amongst all platforms.
That's what gamers are, right?
Indeed, and we all know Super Nintendo is the best anyway, so it doesn't matter from there.
Right. Exactly. That's just fact.
Were you a Nintendo kid or a Nintendo person as a kid, or were you a Sega kid?
No, I was a Nintendo person.
Nice. Okay, we could still be friends then.
It all comes down to that.
Man, it was always weird growing up and like everyone had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo, and then there were like just a handful of kids in elementary school with a Sega Genesis, and they would have sleepovers and you'd go over to their place and be like, there's a headphone jack on this system? What the hell's this?
Yeah, mine doesn't have that.
A volume slider? What's this thing for?
Hey, let's play Super Mario. Oh, wait.
Could play Sonic instead. He taps his foot when you don't play him for a while. That was
good. I like that.
That's the craziest thing. Go to KB Toys and be like, dude, watch this. I'm going to start a level. Now just let it sit for 3 minutes. We're just going to stand in KB Toys and stare at this for 3 minutes. Dude, it's so worth it. And it was worth it. 3 minutes comes, he just jumps off screen, game over. It's like, oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever.
My God, were we gullible back then, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, this is a good game. It does things when you don't touch it for 3 minutes. Oh my God! It's the revolution.
We wouldn't have idle animations in games if it wasn't for stuff like that.
That's true. That's very true.
And even in ChromaGun, I noticed that if you don't play for a while, like you look down, you start sticking around with the gun. So
yeah,
see,
he gives you shit. Yeah,
it all comes back around to ChromaGun.
It does.
See, that's how I weave and bob and weave through the conversation.
Very nicely done, yeah.
Just pull this show out of my ass on a weekly basis.
That's how you do it.
Oh man! So I know we've been talking for quite a while. You asked me what I'm playing?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm trying to think what I'm playing that isn't part of review coverage on the show, and I always find myself going back to Rock Band 4.
That's a good thing.
I love my Rock Band.
That's not bad. Yeah.
I have a depressingly large song library for the game.
I never played Rock Band. I played the shit out of Guitar Hero though.
Oh, we're back to Mortal Enemies again.
Oh no! Weren't they the same developer though?
Guitar Hero started off developed by Harmonix, and then after the second game, like Activision ended up buying Guitar Hero, like the franchise, as well as Red Octane, who created the instruments, and then EA purchased Harmonix.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's when like Neversoft, the Tony Hawk developers, started doing Guitar Hero, and EA and Harmonix did Rock Band, and then it's just been another.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
vicious war since then. And
Unbelievable.
Rock Band 4 is still around, still putting out songs, and Guitar Hero Live was abysmal and terrible and pretty much dead.
Yep.
So
I get it.
And then even Freestyle Games, who created the new Guitar Hero game, were purchased by Ubisoft. So I think Guitar Hero might officially be dead again. But,
wow.
Yeah, that's what I play.
I
every
never realized,
week.
but yeah. A lot of games die.
Indeed. It's sad.
Surprisingly from being purchased. Which you think is counterintuitive, but...
You make a game, someone else buys you, and then you can't make that game anymore.
Well, at least you're rich, right?
True. For now.
For now.
Oh, man. But yeah, I know we've been chatting for a while. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, not really. I'm good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on the show and talking to us about ChromaGun.
Thank you for having me.
Give us one more sales pitch for the people who are on the fence. Convince everyone out there to buy ChromaGun.
Oh God. Okay.
Spotlight's on you. No pressure.
All right. I'm gonna quote. I don't remember who. I think it was a reviewer on Steam, or somewhere on the PlayStation blog. I'm not sure. It was a user anyway. Portal 3's not going to happen.
Probably not at this point.
Right.
Valve doesn't know the number 3.
Right. I think the entire quote was, Portal 3's not going to happen, and I have an itch to be satisfied.
Do all the Portal comparisons bother you guys at all, or have you just embraced it at this point?
At this point, we're embracing it.
Did it bother you at the start? Like, stop comparing us to this. We're our own thing.
It did at one point. I mean, it still bugs us from every once in a while, especially when some idiot comes on and says, "Oh, I'd rather play Portal 3. Why don't you make Portal 3?" And we're like, "Because we're not frickin' Valve. Shut up." But I mean, we did bring it on ourselves. And it's not an accident that ChromaGun looks the way it does. We even have cake.
Nice.
Or do we?
Ooh.
So yeah, there's a lot of intentional similarity there.
Aside from the cake, any other fun Easter eggs hidden in the game?
Yes, every once in a while, the narrator sort of hints at the whole thing at aperture. Let me guess what else. There are a few other things.
I need to know for my own curiosity, is there anything special for shooting the cameras, or am I just shooting all the cameras for nothing?
There is an achievement image on my computer for having shot down all the cameras, but unfortunately that image never made it into the game.
Okay.
There's no achievement, there's no trophy for that, unfortunately. We wanted to, but we never got around to.
Well, thank you for letting me know that I don't need to continue shooting all the cameras, because I saw there were secret achievements in the game, and I'm like,
yeah.
Are any of them for shooting cameras? Well, I'm going to shoot them and find out.
There was supposed to be, but there's not. There's one for finding the cake. Or is there?
Oh, you tease. Oh, man. Well, Steve, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. ChromaGun releases the 22nd on PS4, the 23rd on Xbox One. What's the cost?
I think it's $14.99.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, do you have any final words to end this episode of the show?
Not really. Oh, actually, on Xbox, and this is just for you, we have hero stats for shooting the cameras.
Ooh.
So it does count them, and it does show on your wall, or whatever it's called.
Ooh. Does that mean you guys have achievement tracking too?
What do you mean?
I know Xbox, they, like, if there's achievements in the game, they have ways that you could track, like, if it's shoot 5,000 of something, they'll have like a counter going up of how many you've shot in your achievement list.
I don't think we have any incremental achievements.
Ah, all right. Yeah, then you wouldn't really need tracking.
No.
That's something I love the Xbox does that I wish everyone else would pick up on. And when there's games that come out that have stuff like drive 10,000 kilometers or something like that, and they don't have a tracker showing how much progress you've made.
I hate that too.
Terrible.
Yeah. iOS did that very well.
These are long final words.
It's true. We're starting a new discussion here. All right. Final words. Thank you very much for having me. It was a lot of fun. And I hope to talk to you soon.